Live from Staten Island University Hospital Community Park, CSI Sportsnet brings to you NCAA Division II baseball action live on the ECC Network. Today's matchup features the Lions of Georgian University taking on the College of Staten Island Dolphins. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nicholas Favona, joined on the call tonight by my broadcast partner, Aaron Cohen. And Aaron, you get your first look this season at the 2025 Dolphins. It's obviously been a rough patch so far for CSI, off to a 2-7 start. But tonight, they do face a very unfamiliar opponent for them, in baseball at least. They have faced Georgian in other sports so far these last couple of years. But for the first time, they will be facing Georgian because, as you mentioned to me before our broadcast, this is their first year playing baseball entirely as a program. So Georgia is now playing their fourth game total. They're off to an 0-3 start. What do you think we're going to be expecting here tonight in this matchup?
Oh, great question, Nick. It's really hard to answer that with any solid information just because of how new this program is. Lots to learn about these players. I think that this game film, if it gets out there, is going to be watched by a lot of coaches on Georgian schedule. It's not often you get the opportunity to be the second ever program to play a team. So in terms of expectations, I think it's kind of wide open, I would say. They did play those 3 games you mentioned against Erskine, and we can talk a little bit about that school, Erskine, and what it means to get those results. But to be honest, Nick, this could go any which way.
Yeah, and the Dolphins now taking the field for this game here tonight. And Aaron, as we saw on Sunday against Caldwell, 2 tough losses for the Dolphins in that matchup with the Cougars. The Dolphins falling in game number 1 by the final of 7-3. A game in which the Dolphins were going into the 6th inning with a 3-1 lead. But a couple of bad things went the Dolphins' way. They were not able to get any insurance runs, and they lost that game in extra innings. Game 2 of that doubleheader, Dolphins fell back early 4-0, able to work their way back into the game, made it a 1-run contest going into the late stages. Were not able to bring home that tying run. Caldwell got an extra run in advance and were able to hold on for a 5-3 victory, now pushing the Dolphins' record to a 2-7 mark. And you get the sense now with this game here tonight, obviously facing an unfamiliar opponent, being that this is their first time playing. But with them off to an 0-3 start, the Dolphins off to a 2-7 start, this is a game you kind of feel like early in the season, the Dolphins would love to have this one.
Yeah, I think when you're coming up against a team that you don't know their identity, you can just sort of focus on your own game and try and build your own confidence. I think they have a feeling that they have the upper hand, especially with the home field, playing against a team that probably doesn't really know what they have to offer, and they're still figuring out their best lineup, their best way to go about their game, whereas College of Staten Island, they can really build upon their identity, take this as an opportunity to put a good win on the board after a tough doubleheader like you mentioned. But then again, it's possible that this team has something in it that none of us are expecting. Yeah, big game for the Dolphins early on in the season.
And of course, Aaron, this is the McDonald's pregame show. McDonald's, one of our proud sponsors for the College of Staten Island. I can say, for someone that was here on Sunday, I did venture to McDonald's just a little bit later into the evening after our games between CSI and Caldwell. So always love to go to McDonald's whenever we can possible. And Aaron, while we wait for Georgia to make their first at-bats of this game, why don't you give us Georgia starting lineup for tonight?
Yeah, happy to. So Georgian they are going with batting first. It is number 5. It is their shortstop, and that is Carter Reben. Batting second is number 1, the second baseman. That's Frank Mara. Batting third, number 2, it's the third baseman, Caleb Carter. Then batting fourth, number 13, designated hitter, Alex Elliott. Batting fifth is the right fielder. He is number 37, Thomas Tamargo. Batting sixth, the catcher, number 10, Israel Garcia. Batting seventh is number 18, the left fielder, Joshua Moreno. Batting eighth, number 27, he is the first baseman, Tyler Dunmeyer. And rounding out the batting order, number 30, the center fielder, Larry Rodriguez. On the mound, number 15, Ryan Bilello.
And the first pitch of the evening is hit foul behind the plate, and we are underway from Staten Island University Hospital Community Park. Aaron, expect me to say that a couple of times here tonight. It is a very lengthy home name for the Staten Island Ferry Hawks, so I try to shorten it up sometimes by saying SIUH Community Park, but as much as I can, I like to give a shout out to the Ferry Hawks for allowing us to be here tonight and taking the spectacle of being at this stadium. As a fan of the former Staten Island Yankees, I've been to a lot of games here. Of course, now being with the Ferry Hawks, I've been here a couple times, especially for our CSI nights that we've had here at Staten Island University Hospital Community Park. Mm-hmm. And, you just get a great, as I mentioned on Sunday with our other broadcast partner, John Venezia, you get a great view of the skyline in New York City. Mm-hmm. One of the better views you could possibly get, not only, in collegiate or minor league baseball, but just professional baseball in general.
Yeah, it's spectacular. You can see, all of Lower Manhattan. You can see the Freedom Tower. You can see downtown Brooklyn, all the buildings all the way across.
Statue of Liberty somewhat. It's a little bit foggier today, so the Statue of Liberty is a little bit still just, a few far back. I can't really see it on your view from home, ladies and gentlemen. But if you were here, you definitely get a good view of it being at this ballpark as the count now goes, down to 1-2 on the batter right here.
And to boot, we're going to get a nice sunset as the game goes on. I'm looking forward to seeing what that does to the sky.
We will have the lights go on at some point as well as this game goes along, as that one is hit foul toward the Lion dugout. This is Carter Reben, as you mentioned, leading it off the game for Georgian Court. And as we keep mentioning, this is their first year, so now this is only their fourth game in existence. And Reben's off to a nice start this year, hitting .333 on the season, has an RBI, and just those 3 games has had 9 at-bats. 3 hits, one of those being a double. So looking to get this game started, but he's down on strikes. That one in the dirt. It will be thrown to first base in time, and there's quickly one away.
Yeah, he had probably the strongest start in that opening series of any player on this Lions team, but it's such a small sample, really hard to tell how that's going to pan out over the trajectory of a whole season. I could go on and on just about the level of unknowns that we're experiencing here, but now up to bat is Frank Mara
again, the bat here in the second spot in the lineup as he takes that one on the outside for ball 1. Dolphin star today, Francesco Bonvini, will get you his stats on the young season in just a moment. Dolphins having a lengthy trip in Myrtle Beach. We were able to come back on Sunday, taking on Chestnut Hill and Philly. And they were back on Sunday, or I should have said Saturday they were at Chestnut Hill. And then Sunday they were here against Caldwell. As that one misses on the inside for ball 2. Quickly a 2-0 count for Mara. For Bonvini on the season, this will be his second start of the year. He's 0-1 so far in the young season. 4 innings, 4 hits, 6 runs, 3 earned, 5 walks, 3 strikeouts. So obviously, Aaron, the biggest concern for Bonvini coming into the start tonight has been the walks. We saw that in his first game of the season. Something that he'll want to try to make sure he doesn't get into as this game goes along.
Yeah, in the college game, there's always more walks than you'd like to see, but you got to at least be balancing that out with strikeouts. 5-3 in one outing isn't exactly what he's aiming for, but I'll tell you what, it could certainly be worse.
That one hit down the third base line, and a good job at first base by Vigliotti. Had to come off the bag and was just able to stay on it, as that throw from third base from Sotero had to take him off for a second, but the Dolphins still are able to record the second out of the inning.
Really nice play by Sotero to charge, pick that up on a difficult bounce, and fire an accurate throw. Got some help for the first baseman, like you mentioned, but some solid defense to start off. I'm sure the pitcher, Bonvini, is appreciating that.
Bring up Caleb Carter now with 2 away in the innings. Bonvini looking for a 1-2-3 top of the first. It's a long look in. Here's his first pitch. This is on the inside. Now, something that I have noted as well, Aaron, for this game, the Dolphins not having Michael Keogh in the lineup, and we saw what happened on Sunday, the collision at home plate from a great throw in center field from Chris Palomini, getting the runner out at the plate, keeping the game tied for the Dolphins in that 7th inning at 3-3. But in the process of that play happening, Michael Keogh injuring his hand. So we saw him get taken out after that inning happened. He then did not play in Game 2. Does not get the start here tonight. So definitely a concern for the Dolphins for the rest of this week. They still have a couple more games this upcoming weekend, including one back here on Friday. But the Dolphins are hoping that they can get their senior catcher back.
Yeah, baseball sometimes is a war of attrition, just trying to keep your players healthy throughout the long season. And It's a difficult blow to take. We know how important all of the Kehoes are here to this team, and you just want to try and keep them all together as long as you can. And we'll see how they fill in the replacement today. We haven't gotten into the full lineups yet, but we have Brito in there. He's number
27, Jandale Brito, getting his first start of the season. He has appeared in one game so far in the season, but getting his first official start, the freshman, looking to make a big impact behind the plate. Currently a 3-1 here for Bonvini, and the misses on the inside for ball 4, so a 2-out walk issued to keep the inning going for the Lions.
First walk of the day for Bonvini. We were talking about how that's an issue. Shouldn't cause that much of a problem for him having that one runner on the base path. Only needs 1 out. But you never know. 2-out rally could be in the cards here.
The play right now for the Lions is Alex Elliott. He takes that one for a strike. Now, the thing also, Aaron, on Sunday that we saw, at least in Game 1 especially, the Dolphins got themselves into spots where they got the first 2 out of the inning, were unfortunately issuing 2-out walks, extending the inning for their starters, and that really hurt them in that first game especially, and it allowed Caldwell to get back into the game and forced them, especially the Dolphins, forcing them to go to their bullpen maybe earlier than they would have had hoped as that game went on. So that's something the Dolphins are hoping that Bonvini doesn't have to deal with here tonight. He issued that 2-out walk right here, but as you mentioned, just an out away from getting out of this first inning.
Yeah, pitching depth definitely an issue for the Dolphins. Not a lot of arms that they want to be going back to, especially in a game like this. A couple of their better pitchers just recently pitched in that Sunday doubleheader. Notably, Aiden Keelty, he had a really great start. 5 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 run, 0 earned runs, 4 strikeouts. But they don't got many arms like that to fall back on, so they're really looking to get a lot from Bonvini, push it late into the game.
And you saw the stat line from Keelty in that start. 5 walks in that game, and as I was mentioning, I think 3 of those came with 2 outs in that start. So that's definitely a concern for CSI. They're hoping that their starters don't get into a spot where they get those 2 outs and then issue that 2-out walk to not only extend the inning for the opponent, but also extend the pitching count for their starter in this game. And as you mentioned, having to go to the bullpen maybe earlier than they would have had hoped. Because in a game like that on Sunday, 2 7-inning games, you would maybe try to get Keelty. You know, they got him at least 5. They maybe would have hoped maybe he can go the full 7. And the way he was pitching, he could have easily gone the full 7 in that game against Caldwell.
And, walks are just the kind of thing that can really get on your nerves as a player, as a coach, because like you said, it's just feels like wasted pitches. It feels like a free base runner for the other team. And, you don't want to give your opponent any leg up, and the walk is kind of an epitome of that.
Elliott now has a full count, 3-2 on that last pitch. Carter stole second base, and now a runner in scoring position here for the Lions. Here comes the 3-2, and it's fouled off toward the Lion dugout.
It's a good job staying in the at-bat. Runner in scoring position now. If he can poke anything through a hole, gives his team a chance to grab that lead. And now with the turf, the way the ball rolls on the turf, you have a little bit less time to get that runner home for a ground ball, but you got to take that chance with 2 outs.
Be another 3-2 here from Bonvini, trying to get out of this first inning unscathed. Give the Dolphins a chance to take the early lead in this one. Here comes the 3-2. And it misses low for ball 4, so back-to-back 2-out walks issued by Bonvini will again extend the inning for Georgian Court. Now give them first and second, still 2 outs in the inning, and Tomas Tamargo is now the batter. Tomas Tamargo is the batter.
And see, now we're creating a little bit of a problem for the Dolphins in the first inning here. I saw Bonvini. He's a little frustrated. I'm not sure if he's feeling like he should get some calls he's not getting, or if he's frustrated with his location of the pitches, but he was visibly frustrated. He had both arms out there after that walk. So I think they just came out to sort of calm the nerves a little bit early on in the game.
Yeah, the difference of today's game as well, Aaron, compared to what we had on Sunday. Sunday was a very cold day. Wind was blowing out towards right field. Today, it's not as bad wind-wise. It looks like it's maybe blowing a little bit towards the left field line, and I say that because of how the American flag is blowing. It's blowing more towards left field, maybe a little bit towards center field, so maybe not as big of as an advantage for these right-handed batters here today, but that played a big factor in Sunday's game as well, both games against Caldwell. The batters were able to take advantage of getting some hits into the right center field gap just because of how the wind was.
Yeah, like you mentioned, wind not a huge factor. Really far out into center field, I'm noticing here my first time at the stadium, 390 out to dead center. It's going to take quite a batter to get that all the way out there.
Yeah, we have seen some home runs hit down the left field line, mostly towards the right field line is where we've seen the most home runs hit in the games that we've covered here on Sportsnet for the Dolphins these last couple seasons. It's a 1-0 count here against Tamargo. He hits that one to short. Dolphins will go the short way to second, and they just get the out at second base as almost a costly error happening right there. But Flasher makes the throw to Leno at second for the final out of the first inning. As the Lions will strand 2 runners on base in the top half of the first inning, we head to the home half for the first. Dolphins coming to bat. And we are back for the home half of the first inning between the Lions and the Dolphins. Dolphins coming to bat for the first time here in this game after CSI got into a little bit of a jam that last half inning, Aaron. First and second, 2 outs, but a great job by the Dolphins defense as Flashner was able to get the throw out at second base to get Francesco Bonvini out of that first inning unscathed and now give the Dolphins a chance here in the home half of the first inning to get that first run of the game.
Yeah, a little bit of a sticky situation after getting those first 2 batters out. Felt like there was a chance maybe for Georgian Court to sneak a run or 2 early on in this game, but thankfully the worst that came of it was just a couple extra pitches for the starter in Bonvini.
Chris Palomini leads it off for the Dolphins here, getting the start once again in center field as he has a quick 1-1 count. We'll give you the Dolphins lineup as quickly as I possibly can. Palomini leads off batting first at center field, batting second at second base is TJ Leno, batting third and at first base is AJ Vigliotti, batting fourth designated hitter is JJ Hunter. As Palomini fouls that one off, makes the count 1-2. Batting fifth and in left field is Jaden Waterman. Batting sixth and in right field is Jack Keogh. Batting seventh and at third base is Anthony Sotera. Batting eighth and behind the plate is the catcher. That would be Jandel Brito. And batting ninth and at short is Michael Flashner. As we mentioned, Bonvini getting the start for the Dolphins here tonight. As the count now goes to 2-2. The Dolphins now facing, as you mentioned in the last half inning, Aaron, the starting pitcher tonight for the Lions, Ryan Bolello, who, as we saw during looking at our stats for the year, Bolello had a very nice start his first time around for this Georgia Core team. Palomini drills that one into left center field. Could be a long run, but a great play out there in left field by Moreno, makes the catch for the first out of the inning.
Nice solid contact there for the first at bat of the game. Was headed towards the gap, but as you mentioned, the left fielder there, Moreno, had the perfect jump on it. Great route to the ball, and he met it really simply. He made that look like an easy play when in reality, that ball was headed towards the gap.
Now, an unfamiliar thing that the Dolphins don't usually see often, and we kind of mentioned this a couple times throughout our broadcast throughout the last couple of years, the Dolphins facing a left-handed pitcher in this game, below a left-handed starter. So the Dolphins facing the lefty here, and we get our first lefty-lefty matchup of the evening. As here comes TJ Leno. He takes that one on the outside for a strike 0-1.
Leno was the hero in the Dolphins' last win. Saturday game on March 1st, doubleheader against Chestnut Hill. He had that home run in the 7th, drove in Jack Kehoe. It was a pinch hit home run as we have a ball in play here.
That one hit towards Moreno again, left field. Makes the catch for the second out of the inning. But yeah, Leno, a huge home run in that win over Chestnut Hill. A pinch hit 2-run homer to give the Dolphins, as you mentioned, their last win up to date. And with 2 quick outs here in the first inning, let's see if A.J. Vigliotti can get something going. We saw him make a nice impact in the Dolphins' first game against Caldwell on Sunday, having himself an RBI double in the first inning.
Something else that we didn't get to mention in our abbreviated intro was the Dolphins do not have a home win yet this season. So if they can defeat Georgian Court here, they can finally get a tally in the W column here in Staten Island.
Officially their third home game of the season. They started the year off at Myrtle Beach. As I mentioned, then went to Philadelphia to take on Chestnut Hill. And then, as you mentioned, they played Caldwell on Sunday on those 2 games. So they are still in search of their first official home win of the year. And they would love to get it against a team that is playing their only official 4th game of their existence. And it's quickly for Vigliotti, a 3-0 count.
And something else that's a little bit interesting, Chestnut Hill, a CACC team, Central Atlantic Collegiate Conference. Georgian Court, also a CACC team for baseball at the very least. I think they split. They're also in the East Coast Conference for at least one sport. But CACC, they're in the North for baseball, and they, in their preseason poll, voted 6th of 7th. So not last. In their first ever season, they're not last in the preseason poll. I thought that was fascinating.
3-1 here to Vigliotti. Will miss on the outside for ball 4. So we saw in the last inning the Dolphins issue a 2-out walk. They issued 2 of them. Vigliotti able to issue himself a 2-out walk and extend the inning now and bring up J.J. Hunter.
So each pitcher dealing out a free base in the first inning. Can the Dolphins capitalize unlike their opponents?
I will say also, Aaron, the beauty of tonight for us as well, as Hunter hits that one in the infield. I make my point before we go to break. That one's popped to the shortstop for the final out. Before we go into break, first game against Caldwell on Sunday. It was a tough game for us because we couldn't see the scoreboard out of left center field. We had thought the entire game the board was off. Apparently, it was on the whole time, and the light was just dimmed to the point where we couldn't see it from up here in the press box.
Oh, God.
So game 2, thankfully, we were able to get the board on, and we were able to see it. And that was good for me only because I'm doing the balls and strikes here for our graphics for our home listeners. So I definitely needed it on the first game on Sunday because there were some counts where we were trying to guess if it was full count, 2-strike count or not. So thankfully we have the board on here tonight for this contest between the Lions and the Dolphins. We head to the top of the second, scoreless between Georgia Court and CSI.
My path to a college degree would have been completely different had I not run Division II cross country for the University of Mount Olive. Having an athletic and academic scholarship was key for my success. Our coaches were really helpful with balancing out my academics and athletics. I decided to attend graduate school because I wanted to become an athletic director. Receiving the postgraduate scholarship through the NCAA provided me with the flexibility to choose the school that I wanted. So now I know that I can accomplish any goal that I set for myself.
Top of the second inning here at SIUH Community Park. Scoreless ball game between the Lions and the Dolphins. As both teams were at least able to get a runner on in their respective first inning, but to no avail to start this game as the first pitch from Bonvini is in there for a strike to start off this top of the second.
Yeah, got a runner on base. Not able to bring him around. Ended with a pop-up in the infield. But the bats are swinging. I think they're getting a good look at this lefty pitcher. Like you said, Nick, lefty pitcher is such a rarity in college baseball that I think it does sometimes take a moment to adjust to that different delivery. With that in mind, nice to see the Dolphins making contact early on.
This is Israel Garcia leading it off. He hits this one to short. And Satara is one, makes the play, and he'll throw it onto first base in time for the first out. So almost a collision between Flashner and Satara out at short. It looked like that was going to be Flashner's play, but it was Satara that makes the play. So initially, a 6-3 putout turns into a 5-3 putout for the first out of the inning.
Well, Satara made a really nice play in the first inning that we were talking about, charging a chopping ground ball. In that instant, just kind of awkward. I mean, the rule of thumb is for a shortstop that if a third baseman can come over and make that play, it's all his. But you would think if that's the case that it happens a little bit further up in the infield. He kind of waited on it.
As Moreno hits this one to left, and it's off of Waterman's glove. That will be an extra base for Moreno to second. We'll see how they score that one. That most likely will go down as an E7 as Georgian Court has themselves a runner in scoring position here at one away.
Oh, man. That was a tough break for the Dolphins. Not only because he didn't make a catch. It would have been a bit of a difficult shoestring catch, but he was there for it. I think a play that he would expect himself to make out there in left field, Waterman. But it kicked so awkwardly off of, I think it was his back leg. I think it kicked off of his left ankle and all the way into the corner.
Yeah, I think it either kicked off of his glove or it kicked off maybe the top of his kneecap or something because he was lunging towards the ball, and it looked like he was going to be able to make the play. But as you mentioned, that was a tough play out in left field. Moreno, who the opposing left fielder in this game, has already made himself a nice defensive play. Robin Palomini of an extra base hit. He was able to lunge that one the opposite way, being a left-handed hitter, and it just bounced off of Waterman, leading to that error. And now giving the Lions a chance to score first in this game here at the top of the second.
And the thing about making a mistake like that in this stadium is that this outfield has a lot of real estate. There's a lot of area for this ball to just keep on rolling away from you. And if I'm honest, I was worried about the batter rounding second and taking in a third base. But luckily Waterman got there in time.
The 1-0. This is on the outside for ball two. Just checking in towards our right side, Aaron, to make sure that it was an error or not. That is indeed an error out in left field. So it's 2-0 count here. The batter at the plate is Tyler Dunmeyer, and I'll make a point, Aaron, in a second about Dunmeyer as he swings and misses for 2-1. If you notice the roster for Georgian Court in this game, they have a couple players on their team that are not only batters but also pitchers. So they have two-way players on their team. I think I'm looking at it right now. I believe 3 players. They have 3 players that are two-way players, can bat and pitch as well.
Yeah, you see that every now and then.
Coming more custom now, especially professional baseball and maybe a little bit more in collegiate baseball as well.
Yeah. It sort of reminds me of the way that it tends to work in high school baseball, where oftentimes your best pitcher is just your best player, and he just has that hitting ability, and you can't keep him out of the lineup. I see a lot of instances, I've seen it already this season, of players starting on the mound, and then once they've gone through their innings of pitching, they're just the designated hitter for the team.
As Dunmeyer swings and misses on that ball in the dirt for strike 3, there's now 2 away. So huge punch out right there for Bonvini, getting Dunmeyer, the first baseman for the Lions, out. And it'll be up now to Larry Rodriguez here with 2 away as the Lions once again have a runner in scoring position trying to get that first run.
Larry Rodriguez batting a cool 0-0-0 so far this season. 9 at-bats, has not registered a hit.
Would love to get that first hit right here and give his team an early 1-0 lead. And he has a chance right there. Sliding stop by Vigliai. Throws it on to Bonvini in time for the final out of the second. A great play at first base by A.J. Vigliotti robs Rodriguez of his first hit of the season and robs Georgian Court of their first run of this game. As the Lions shred another runner on base here at the top of the second, we head to the home half of the second inning, scoreless between Georgian Court and CSI.
As a student athlete in college, I first got involved with the NCAA at the national level. It was through the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, SAC, gave me an opportunity to advocate on behalf of all student athletes, to affect change and to make an impact. The NCAA is giving the student athlete a platform to voice their concerns and to be able to advocate for what's going to affect their well-being. The policies that are being put in place are speaking towards academics, they're speaking towards well-being, they're speaking towards fairness, creating a culture so that the student athletes have the best experience as possible.
Home half of the second inning here between the Dolphins and the Lions. Jaden Waterman will lead it off here. He's thankful, Aaron, that after that error out in left field, he leads off this second inning, trying to get the first hit of this game between these two teams.
Yeah, I hope he shook A.J. Vigliotti's hand there for making that slide stop to end the inning. Also, good cover by Bonvini, being aware and knowing that he has to get to the bag there. So,
well, you know what, Aaron? As a Yankee fan that saw a horrific play at first base during the World Series a couple months ago, as our statistician Lou Patron says, don't mention about it, but I have to mention it at a play like that. I was getting a little bit of flashbacks to that play in that game, and not good flashbacks for me as a fan of the Yankees. And opening day is just right around the corner for MLB, so it's a great time to be a baseball fan. Now, Aaron, I don't know. Are you what fan are you for baseball? I don't think I've ever asked you.
I'm a fan of your New York Mets.
New York Mets, okay.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's an exciting time for you with stealing my Juan Soto.
That's right. Oh, my God, man. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
You and me both. As Waterman has a 3-1 count.
Vibes are sky high. But, of course, in classic Mets fashion, our starting pitching is decimated before the season even starts.
Right back at you. We're the same exact way right now. Sand's already hurt. I think 3/5 of the rotation's already hurt. So, yeah, we're right with you. As Waterman is issued a leadoff walk to start the bottom of the second inning. But, I think, for an instinct for a pitcher like that, you have to realize, once that ball is almost going towards right field and you see your first baseman playing more towards that, you're not even more towards the bag, because the second baseman on that play, Lena, was playing towards the bag to cover the runner at second. So that's a good instinct by Bonvini to at least realize I have to go cover the bag, otherwise that there's no way Vigliotti is going to be able to make that play at first base.
It's such an important defensive assignment, especially for a pitcher, to help yourself. You know what I mean? You're trying to get out of an inning, get an out for yourself, and it's so often forgotten about. You see it all the time throughout a major league season, pitchers forgetting to cover the base. And I just can't wrap my head around how that happens so often. It's not like the pitcher has this whole wide amount of defensive responsibilities.
The play for the Dolphins here is Jack Keogh, who has had himself a nice start to his Dolphin career. Had himself an RBI in Game 1 against Caldwell on Sunday. He fouls that one off behind the plate, and the count now 1-2. Another lefty-lefty matchup we'll see here tonight for these two teams. Keogh on the young year, hitting .269, has 2 home runs, 5 RBIs so far to his young Dolphin career.
sure he entered into this team with a lot of weight on his shoulders trying to carry the name of his brothers. He's taking that in stride.
Yeah, it can't be easy when you're on a team that's already had a very synonymous, last name with your brothers, one of them being a starting pitcher for this roster, another playing outfield and behind the plate for you the last couple of seasons as he strikes out for the first out of the inning. But it cannot be easy for someone to come onto this team already being the third brother of a team of teammates. And he's done a great job so far this season. So far, as I mentioned, he's tied for the team lead in not only home runs, but RBIs as well. So he's been off to a nice young start this season, just in the first 9 games of the season for CSI.
Yeah, 269 batting average through 26.
So Tara hit that one towards the mound. The Dolphins with a hit and run on that spot. So no double play enforced right there. Still 2 outs in the inning. Waterman was running on that last pitch. And thankfully for the Dolphins, Tara swung away. And Dolphins avoiding the double play ball. So a 1-3 putout for the second out. Waterman now into scoring position. The first pitch is a strike 0-1. This is Burrito at the plate.
Another situation, 2 outs with a runner on early on in this game. Would be nice for CSI to just get one on the board, hold on to that lead.
Countdown 1-1. Burrito, as you see, Aaron, only 1 at bat in the season, but he did get a hit in that 1 at bat. So, love to go 2 for 2 with his young start to his Dolphin career. And maybe get his first RBI as well and give CSI an early 1-0 lead. And he might have got a chance. That one's into left field for a base hit. Waterman's rounding third. He will try to score. The throw for left field, not in time. It's an RBI single for Burrito. Dolphins get on the board first. They lead this one 1-0.
What a nice job by Burrito there. Just as we mentioned, his second at bat, his second hit, batting 1,000. And what I love about that, Nick, is he wasn't trying to do too much. He was trying to make contact and hopefully find a hole. He poked it right between third base and shortstop. Big gaping hole because the shortstop was more towards the middle. And that's all he had to do. Runner came around third. Throw was cut off, had no chance. And now the Dolphins have got themselves a 1-0 lead.
Moreno tried his best. Moreno. I don't know why I said Morales, but Moreno made his best intentions out in left field to get that throw. But as you mentioned, it was cut off. They would not have had to play it to get Waterman. Great heads-up base running. And that play where they ran the hit and run really paid off for CSI in that spot. They got him into scoring position. 2 pitches later, Burrito able to get his second collegiate hit and get his first collegiate RBI and give CSI an early 1-0 lead in this game.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it quite literally extended the inning because most likely that would have been an inning-ending double play, pitcher turning it around, throwing it to second, but he had no chance on that. So it just gave the Dolphins an opportunity to do something else, and we get another hit.
And they get another hit and run works as that's a base hit for Flashner. Burrito goes from first to third. He's in there safely. Flashner will advance to second on the throw to third base. So he gets himself a single, advances to second on the throw. And now the Dolphins have second and third, still 2 outs of the inning.
Well, somebody's got the rally caps on, Nick, because this is a bit of a 2-out rally we got going on. Really nice base running from the lead runner, getting around and getting into third with that head-first slide. Throw was very close. It was a nice effort, again, from Moreno. He seems to have a good arm out there, but just didn't really have enough of a chance.
Now, you know what I'm surprised by here, Aaron? And maybe they will do it a little bit later in this at-bat as Palomino takes the first pitch for a ball. First base is open right now, but on deck is Leno. You have a lefty-lefty matchup. Do you potentially think about walking Palomino here to load the bases, bring up the lefty-lefty matchup, and try to get the force at any base?
I think it's a good thing to consider, especially considering how well Palomino has been doing this season. I mean, if there's anyone you do not want to face with runners in scoring position on this Dolphins team, it is this batter right here. But they're choosing to challenge him. I'm interested to see how this plays out.
The 1-1 swung on a miss for strike 2, and the count now 1-2. And going back to your earlier point for the double play ball where the Dolphins hit and ran, that was another problem for CSI in that first game against Caldwell. They grounded into 3 double plays and were not able to bring home an extra run in that game, and that really hurt them as the game went on. As Palomini hits that one into foul territory. Let's see if they are able to make that play, and they can't. And a collision down that first base line as well. Hopefully both players are okay. But a scary sight right there. That most likely should be an error right there for the Lions. But it looked like they were about to record the final out of this inning, Eric, and they, thankfully for both players, are able to both get up in time.
Yeah, the collision didn't seem too serious. That was the catcher Garcia and the first baseman Dunmire. That's right. And honestly, Nick, it was a breakdown of communication. They both had a great beat on the ball. They just didn't talk to each other. They were just standing in the exact same spot.
I am being asked in the room next to me if that's an error. That is most certainly an error because that would have been the final out of the inning.
The question is, who do you give the error to?
I think you give it to the first baseman. It's tough to really gauge on who that would go to, but I think you give it to the first baseman on that play.
Because to be honest, it was really a mistake on both of their parts. Neither of them communicated.
That's the one where they teach you in small ball. Say I got it and see who gets it. As Palomini hits that one into right center, it looks to be playable, and the catch will be made out in right field for the final out of the second inning. But not before the Dolphins bring home the first run of this game. As we go to Jandel Brito right here on our replay, getting his first collegiate RBI single, bringing home Jaden Waterman and bringing home the first run of this ball game. We head to the top of the third. Dolphins lead this one 1-0.
Being a champion takes more than talent, more than the perfect pass, more than using your head. Being a champion takes the spirit to always push harder, the ability to overcome any hurdle, and the fire to be the best. Welcome to Division 2, where the pursuit is yours to create. And the question isn't, can you do it? It's, will you?
Top of the third inning now, a 1-0 lead for the Dolphins off the Brito RBI single. Francesco Bonvini's first pitch is hit foul and behind the plate. And the count goes to 0-1.
Good job by the Dolphins not leaving runners on base. Very efficient offense, 1 run off of 2 hits. Making the most of the opportunities that they've had so far. Making those hit and run decisions. Super impactful so far.
Thankfully for Georgian Court, as Reben is hit by the pitch, so he'll go on first base to start off this inning. But thankfully for Georgian Court, Aaron, as we were mentioning during our break, that error did not hurt them, at least, at bat. Palomini was able to get an extra swing, flew out to right field for the final out. And now here, after that first at-batter gets hit by the pitch, a chance here for Georgian Court to potentially tie or take the lead later in this inning.
Yep, and that's Caleb Carter. Nope, sorry, the other. That's Carter Reben. They have 2 Carters on their roster that are prominent batters.
Yep.
But Carter Reben now on the bag.
Reben at the bag. This is Mara that is batting right now. Frank Mara, the batter here for the Lions. Wondering if maybe already down the count 0-1, would he try to maybe lay down a bunt and move the runner into scoring position?
I will note that Reben has attempted 2 stolen bases successfully, and there he
goes again. And they go for the hit and run, and it works to perfection for a base hit. Reben will go from first to third. There's a bobble in the field almost for the Dolphins, but thankfully it gets into the infield. I think that hit off the glove of Kehoe when Palomini threw it into the infield. And I thought that was – I could have been seeing things there. I thought that's initially what happened off the rip. But a great execution of another hit and run in this game. Now leads to first and third. Still nobody out in the inning, and danger afoot so far in this inning for CSI.
Well, I don't mean to pat myself on the back too much, but that might be the most timely mentioning of a stat that I've ever had as a broadcaster.
As a CSI fan, they're probably not happy that you mentioned it at that point in time. They throw to first, and Vigliotti had to get off the bag from Bonvini's throw. Third hit and run of this game already. And we saw that hurt the Dolphins as well against Caldwell. And Caldwell's come from behind victory in game number 1.
Sticky situation here for Bonvini.
Again, throws to first, and they just gets back in. We saw Michael First on Sunday in game 2. He picked off 2 base runners against Caldwell. So Bonvini trying to do some magic as well. Try and check the runner Mara at first base and ensure that he does not go into scoring position. Caleb Carter, as you mentioned, is the batter here for the Lions, trying to do some damage. We've been doing some magic down the line at that third base, trying to prevent anything happening. They do throw to second, not in time. So a pass ball on the throw will allow the runner to get the stolen base. So now it's second and third, still nobody out. Eliminates the double play ball there, Aaron, and we'll see maybe if the Dolphins will try to move the infielders in, and it doesn't look like they appear to do so. The corner infield is somewhat in. The middle infielders will stay back, so the Dolphins might be content with allowing the game-tying run to come in.
That was a risky decision to throw that ball by Brito, because if that ball does not end up perfectly in the glove of whoever's covering second there, that allows an opportunity for Reben to take home. Thankfully, it worked out just fine, but I'm not so sure many coaches would want that ball to be thrown there.
So Reben at third. Mara at second, Carter the batter here. And he is quickly up in the count, 3-0. Dangerous spot here. If Bonvini was to walk him, that would load the bases for Alex Elliott. The only good thing about that would be, Aaron, is that the Dolphins would have to play at any base.
Yeah, there is a definite benefit to that, especially at this point in the count. It might just be safer to issue him a walk. He does get the strike there. But like you said, the creation of a force out at any bag is a distinct advantage right now. It could be quite awkward if a ground ball was hit to, say, third base.
And if Carter right here gets this one up the middle, that would easily bring home 2 runs to give Georgian Court their first lead of this game. Tarum creeping in at third. Here comes the 3-1. And it misses for ball 4. So Bonvini now loads the bases with that walk. Still nobody out in the inning. The Dolphins now will have to force at any base. But a huge chance right here for Alex Elliott to do some damage and give Georgian Court their first lead of this contest.
Now, Nick, I'll tell you, I'm looking for Alex Elliott on the stat sheet. Here he is.
Hasn't had many at-bats so far this season.
No, he hasn't. He's had 7, batting 143. He's got a singular hit. He's one of the only batters on this team to have an RBI so far this season, so he could launch himself forwards and be the leader on the season and all time for RBIs for the moment for this program if he knocks one here.
It's weird to say all time, but that is indeed the case. If he were to get a base hit right here, he would be the all-time RBI leader with, depending on how many were to get if he gets a base hit. He takes a big swing and a miss, maybe got a piece of it on that breaking ball right there for Bonvini, and he's now down the count 0-2.
Really nice off-speed pitch. You could see the movement from all the way up here in the press booth, and it fooled the batter just enough.
How big of this would be for Bonvini to get a strikeout to get the first out and have a chance to get a double play ball to get himself out of the inning. Here comes the 0-2. That one chopped foul. Count remains 0-2.
That's good defensive batting right there from Elliott, just protecting the plate. really defensive-looking chop right there. Had no intent of really putting that in play.
Something we saw on Sunday against Caldwell. We saw a suicide squeeze in the seventh inning, or in the eighth inning, I should say, that gave Caldwell the lead, and they would not surrender that lead. That gave them a 4-3 lead in the top of the eighth. They would get a couple more runs after that. It was kind of a similar scenario in terms of the runner at third base, giving the pitcher on the mound problems for the Dolphins because they were checking the runner the entire time. It led to them, and it led to me also being very, very stunned by the play because I was not expecting it. They laid it down to perfection. It worked perfectly. It gave them the lead, and they would not lose that lead and win that game 7-3. That one chopped to third, but foul. Cal remained 1-2.
Well, I'll tell you, a suicide squeeze would fit into the theme we've been seeing so far with the offense in this game, which is...
I'd be very stunned considering he's already down the count by 2 strikes. But we've seen some stranger things here on Sportsnet. You never know what could happen with some of these at-bats.
I'll also point out we have a pitcher warming up now.
Yeah, the Dolphins do have a pitcher up in their bullpen. Not sure who it is, but maybe we can get some clarification in the next couple moments. Here goes the 1-2 for Bonvini. Misses on the outside, goes over the glove of Brito, and that will allow Reben to score. So a wild pitch will allow the first run of this game to score for Georgian Court, and this game is knotted up at 1.
And that's a disappointing moment for the Dolphins, not making your opponent earn their runs. That ball I think the catcher, Brito, was expecting that ball a little bit lower, and it just soared over his right shoulder. And there's so much room back here behind the plate that there was really no chance that Brito could get that ball back to the plate in time.
Dolphins now moving the entire infield in, trying to prevent the go-ahead run from scoring. It's now a 2-2 count here to Elliott. Breaking ball inside, but foul.
Bonvini's got to find that put-away pitch. Find the swing and miss or grab the corner of the zone right now. Just really needs an unproductive out right here. Anything into the outfield and you're in real trouble.
And the thing that happens as well with that wild pitch is now you take away the force at any base.
Mm-hmm.
So the Dolphins now will have to contend with giving up the out, or will try to get it out at first if possible. That one hit to short. Flasher cannot make the play off of his glove, and that will allow the second run to score. It's now 2-1.
Oh, man. Things not going the way of the Dolphins right now. That is a tough break. And you know what, Nick? I think he was looking to throw that ball home.
He was looking straight at home plate as soon as he was trying to make the scoop. And because of that happening, he was not able to scoop up that ball. That's already the second error of the game. And Aaron, with that run, that makes some history for Georgian Court. That's the first time in their program history that they have a lead.
Wow.
That is the first time.
Everything else aside, that's a genuinely special moment for a baseball program. I'm very happy for them, and I'm sure that they know it. But, man, tough to swallow is another stolen base.
Yeah, Elliott easily getting to second base on that one, as there would be no throw from Brito behind the plate. So Elliott gets a stolen base there, his first of the season, and now, once again, still second and third, and again, nobody out in the inning, and the Dolphins again will move the infielders in and try to prevent another run from scoring.
I really do think, Nick, if Flashner just waited on that and taken it on the easier hop, he still would have had time to get the out at first. Unfortunately, still no outs, and now 2 runners again in scoring position for Georgian Court, who could pile on in this inning and grab a multi-run lead.
This is Tomas Tamargo at the plate. Left-handed batter looking to do some damage, as you mentioned. Base hit right here. Could put his team up early 4-1. 2 runs of the inning for the Lions off of a hit. A couple, I believe, 1 walk and an error as well for CSI. The 2-0. That one skips off of Brito. They'll have no play at the plate as Bonvini could not make the play. They will not bring home the second runner, and another wild pitch, Aaron, leads to another run. 3-1 lead for Georgian Court.
And things have just kind of slowly deteriorated here for Bonvini. I mean, had a very strong start, good first 2 innings, but just has not been able to catch even a single break here, Nick. He could have at least one out in this inning right now in prospects of limiting this damage, but he does not have a way out of the inning at this moment.
It's in danger of walking another batter right here. 3-0 the count. And he does.
I don't think we have pitch count statistics readily available, but I've just been informed he's thrown 58 pitches so far, so he's not incredibly far into his pitch count, but the more that this goes on, the less length you can expect. He might not even make it out of this inning if he can't produce an out or two.
That last pitch got me a little bit choked up, Aaron. I was feeling a sneeze on that last one. As that one was hit to right field. Keogh will make the play. The runner will tag from third. Here's the throw from Keogh. It will be cut off by Vigliotti. Scoring is now the fourth run of this game for Georgian Court. They now lead this one 4-1.
So an RBI, his first RBI of his Georgian Court career. Congratulations that was not Tamargo, was it?
That was not Tamargo. Was the one is now on first base. That would be Garcia. They got his first RBI. This is now Moreno at the plate. So Garcia gets his first RBI on the sac fly. It's Moreno at the plate.
Moreno, the left fielder, had some strong throws, didn't amount to anything, but it was a nice display of what his arm is capable of. So he's been giving solid defense and an opportunity to keep the ball rolling here in the top of the third inning where they've already scored 4 runs, Nick.
Yeah, and the thing for Georgia Court is they've gotten 4 runs off of just 1 hit as well. They've taken advantage of an error, a couple of walks as well, a few wild pitches, and it's really just deteriorated for the Dolphins so far. The good thing for CSI, it's only the third inning, so there's still a long time for them to go in this game, but they really need to keep this at least, not give up any more further runs, and they're hoping that Bonvini could be the one to get them out of the inning, at least still down 3 runs.
It's a big mental test.
Could be a double play. Vigliotti to Flashner, back to first for Bonvini covering, and they do turn the double play. 3-6-1 to retire the side. But Aaron, go ahead and make your final point before we go to break.
No, that's all right. Not important. We are headed into the break. Score is 4-1 in favor of the visiting Georgian Court Lions.
Yeah, Georgia Court now with a 4 spot in the top of this third inning. Now have a 4-1 lead heading into the home half for the third. We're back for the home third here at SIUH Community Park, and it's now a brand new ball game as Georgian Court, with a 4 spot in the top of the third now, have their first official program lead in their history. A 4-1 lead here in the bottom third as the Dolphins now try to get back into this game.
And it was strong offense by Georgian Court. However, I think the Dolphins will be feeling as though they gave away a couple runs there that they didn't have to.
As Leno flies that one out to center field, and quickly on 2 pitches, he is retired for the first out of the third.
Quick moving through the order here for the starting pitcher, Bolello. He's still under 40 pitches in this third inning. I believe the official count puts him at 37 at this moment.
That last one gave him 38. So that one missed on low and inside for ball 1. Dolphins really could use a spark right here. Maybe they get it right there. Vigliotti hits that one into right, but it just dies towards the wall, and the catch is made for the second out.
Really well hit ball by Vigliotti with a lot of interesting movement. That ball kind of came across the body of the right fielder, Tamargo, but he made the adjustment. Vigliotti, who was one of the better hitters in that Sunday doubleheader against Caldwell, couldn't add to that hit tally to this at bat.
Quickly, the Dolphins retired on 4 pitches for their first 2 outs of this inning. But going back to that game against Caldwell, I mentioned earlier about the wind. If the Dolphins have had the same effect wind that they had in that first game on Sunday, Aaron, I believe that's a home run right there for Vigliotti. The wind was blowing profusely out into right field. That one kind of just died a little bit towards that right field wall. And if not for a great play by Tamargo, that's extra bases right there for sure for Vigliotti.
Yeah, with the weather tonight, that ball was kind of going against the flow of the wind. Had the opposite of help.
J.J. Hunter, the batter here with 2 away. He takes that one on the outside for a ball, 1-0 the count. And the start as a designated hitter for CSI in this game was a starting catcher on Sunday in their second game against Caldwell.
Always when you let up runs in one frame of an inning, you always want to come back the next frame and provide a response. It's great for just the morale and the vibe of the team heading into the rest of the game, showing that we're here to compete, we're here to stay within striking distance, and not to say that the third inning of this game is going to have that major consequence for the rest, but it just can be a little bit of a difficult mental moment if you go 1-2-3 after giving up 4 runs.
Below still under 10 pitches so far in the inning. That was pitch number 8 on that last ground ball that hit went foul. So this will be pitch number 9 of the inning. It's Below looking to retire the Dolphins 1-2-3 here in the home third. Here comes the 1-2. And it misses on the outside for ball 2. Correction, we've just been told the count is full at 3-2. So that was pitch number 10. So we pitch number 11 of the inning. And it's fouled off behind the plate. Quick work to start the inning from Below. This at-bat has been a lengthy one against Hunter. Retiring the Dolphins on the first 2 batters on just 4 pitches. It's another 3-2 here. And Hunter once again hits that one foul.
Hunter came into the day with a .333 average. Only 12 at-bats, but still a very respectable output from those 12 at-bats. 4 hits, a double, 2 runs scored, 5 total bases.
Heads up by us. That one hit foul once again.
I got it.
I heard an interesting comment from John Venezia on Sunday about that, Aaron. I'm glad you just made that point. There was a foul ball hit towards us on right, towards the right of us in the press box. That was right by where the PA announcer and Stats and the Sats are all. And Venezia said that I would have had that play easily. And it was a line drive. And I said, John, I'm going to level with you, maybe, but you're probably going to get hit by that ball pretty hard. And I said, I want to give you the benefit of the doubt. I just don't know because I've seen other people here at the commentator's desk and in the press box get hit by the foul ball, and it's never a pleasant sight. That one hit foul, looks to be out of play, and that's indeed the case. It actually went in to the Lion dugout and bounces over the netting into the spectators.
This at-bat's getting a little lengthy. Quite a few foul balls hit. I think that's, 4, 5?
I believe he has fouled off 4 pitches in this at-bat.
So incredible perseverance by Hunter here, determined to make something happen for the Dolphins before we get to inning number 4. We'll see what he can pull off.
And he's able to work the walk, so a great at-bat by Hunter will get him on first base with 2 away. Another 2-out walk issued by Bolello. And we'll see maybe if that could spark something for CSI, bringing up Jaden Waterman, who was able to get on base last time he came around and then scored the lone Dolphin run back in the second inning.
And if we remember, that was also a 2-out rally, so who knows how long this could go on with no room for error.
Broadcast partner Joe Foreman, as that I was mentioning about the foul balls hit towards the press box, he would know because it hit his, as he quoted, rock solid core of his ribs. But as Lou Matrone just said, Joe, you took it like a champ. You do have to protect the laptop at all costs. That is true, Steph. That is very, very true. I have to protect all the equipment here from CSI. I had a basketball hit towards me a couple of weeks ago, and I protected myself and myself only. So wasn't really looking out for the attentions of our equipment. Thankfully, nothing happened.
It's natural instinct.
But, yeah, my natural instinct was like, oh, my goodness, I have to protect myself, not protect the laptop that's in front of me.
Yeah.
So does that make me a bad coworker?
I don't think so. It's a lot more expensive to buy a new face than a new laptop.
Count now 2-2 for Waterman here. Still 2 outs of the inning. Hunter at first base. Dolphins, as you mentioned, trying to get a 2-out rally once again. But Waterman swings and misses for strike 3, and the side is retired. Dolphins trying to runner on base here in the home third. We head to the top of the 4th inning. Georgia Court leads this one, 4-1. And we're back for the top of the 4th inning here at SIUH Community Park, where the Dolphins make a pitching change here in this top of the 4th as Alex Martinez is on in relief of Francesco Bonvini. For Martinez, this will be his 2nd appearance of the year. In his first appearance of the season, that was against Chestnut Hill on Saturday. He went an inning and 2/3, allowed 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. So a nice start to the year for Martinez, Aaron. And he comes now into a game where the Dolphins trail this one 4-1, trying to keep it a 3-run deficit and give his offense a chance to potentially tie or take the lead.
I think this is a good opportunity for Martinez to sort of wipe away the memories of that appearance, the last appearance against Caldwell in Game 1 of that doubleheader. He was the pitcher that got the loss with that 7th
Well, I'm
inning.
going to cut you off, Aaron. That's the other Martinez you're thinking of, Christopher.
Oh, no. Oh, so many Martinezes.
Yeah, there is a couple Martinezes as well on this team.
Uh-oh.
So for Alex Martinez, this is only his 2nd appearance. Christopher Martinez, he was the one that was issued the loss in game number 1 against Caldwell. So,
Oh, man.
So, didn't want to cut you off immediately after, but I just wanted to make sure.
No, that's necessary. I have to forget everything I said. Redacted.
Martinez has had some nice moments, though, here at SIUH Community Park. Had a very memorable game against Holy Family in relief, where he came in. It was 2nd and 3rd, I believe, with only 1 out. It was able to work out of that jam, keep the game scoreless, and give the Dolphins a walk-off win the next half inning, where Nico Rodriguez got a walk-off RBI single. Count now 0-2 quickly here for him.
Yet to allow an earned run is Martinez. I mean, it's only 1 2/3 innings pitched, but a 0 ERA is a 0 ERA.
That one hit towards second. Lena will make the play off the backhand and throw it on to first base in time for the first out of the inning.
Nice solid defense from the second baseman there. Opted for the backhand and made it super clean, and that's one of the advantages of the turf surface. Very predictable roll of the ball. I didn't really know of many minor league teams that play on turf, but the Ferry Hawks, I guess, do.
Well, I think you also noticed, Aaron. I'm sure you could see it, and I think some of our viewers at home could see it. And I made this point as well on Sunday. You can see the white outlines from football because they also play football here. I believe for some of the high school teams here at SIUH Community Park. So those white outfield football lines are still out there for half of the infield and the majority of the outfield as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Lou. Tomville and Curtis play here. So they play an annual game here at this facility, and it's not a bad facility to play a football game here. From the looks of it.
Pretty interesting venue, although it looks like one of the end zones kind of has a concrete wall right at the back of it.
Yeah,
it's a little scary.
Yeah, just a little bit too close for comfort as Rodriguez went down swinging for the second out. But I have seen some football games being played at baseball stadiums, so I think they look at those games, try to get themselves a indication of what they should have it lined out as, and make sure that the player's safety obviously is at full extent. That way they're not crashing into any of those walls.
Yeah, I'm sure they put up plenty of padding.
Yeah, absolutely. As we now go back to the top of the order here for Georgia Court, 2 outs in this 4th inning. The batter here is Reben. Saw him make a huge impact in that last inning, Aaron. Had got on base, scored that first run of this game for Georgian Court. So he's in now a 1-1 count.
That's right. He was the runner in that hit and run. He collected his 3rd stolen base as a result of that play. Ended up coming home on a wild pitch, if I remember correctly.
You're correct. This count now goes to 1-2. And remember, as I mentioned last inning, Georgia Court did all that damage, and they still only have just 1 hit so far in this game.
Yeah.
They were able to get a couple of walks issued to Bonvidi, and that really drove up his pitch count and exited him early from this game. That one chopped up the middle. Going to be a tough play for Flashner. He will make the play, throw it onto first base, but it's not in time. Reben is just able to beat out the throw at first and get Georgian Court now their second hit of this contest.
Great hustle down the line by Reben, and we know he has speed. That ball was hit relatively slowly, and Flashner really didn't have any time. I think he took 1 pump there after he fielded the ball, and that pump, I think, gave the runner just enough time to sneak in.
So another 2-out base runner right here for Georgia Court. That one missed on the outside for ball 1. As we get a second look at that play towards second base, Flasher just missed getting that out at first. Again, the runner Reben is now. Mara is the batter here for Georgia Court as they check the runner at first. Reben is back in safely.
We don't have to tell you about how quickly they can turn this into a dangerous situation. It already happened this game.
Dolphins would love to get that 3rd out as Reben is going. Throw from Brito behind the plate. Skips to second base, but they do get the out recorded. A nice bounce towards second base, and the nice scoop and tag was made for the final out of the top of the 4th inning. We now head to the home half of the 4th. Dolphins trail this one, 4-1.
Number 32, Kyle Hornsby. Inside the 30. Touchdown. Michaela Burgess.
An incredible finish by Hall. The NCAA and its member schools offer nearly 500,000 college athletes a path to go pro in something other than sports. Learn more at ncaa.org.
Back for the home fourth here. Georgia Court still leads this game 4-1 as Jack Keogh takes a first pitch strike, and the count quickly is 0-1.
Still plenty of time, but the Dolphins got to find some way to put the ball in play here as they're behind by 3. Despite having as many hits as their opponents, 2 apiece, it's just that Georgian Court has been able to make more of those 2 hits.
They've been able to get on base with a couple walks issued by Bonvini as well as a couple wild pitches that were prolonged that third. And now for CSI here in the bottom fourth. You saw them go down quickly in the last inning in terms of the first 2 batters. Keogh trying to make Bilello work here in this at-bat. He has now a 3-1 count.
You know, you can't always look at the box score to understand how a game went, but sometimes the box score does tell a pretty accurate story. And when you saw now they have 2 hits, but before they had 1 hit and 4 runs, and that tells a pretty interesting narrative about how the lead was established. We were talking about how you always see something you never saw before in every baseball game.
Now one chopped towards second. Keogh chugging down the first base line, but the play will be made at first base for the first out of the inning.
Where I wanted to go with that is that in a game that I was working last week, I saw a broken bat on an infield grounder.
Really?
A broken metal bat.
Wow. You really don't see that often.
Right?
I will say, if that happens tonight, then there has to be something with you in attendance for that happening.
I would hope that doesn't happen because a piece of metal flying around the air like that, that's very dangerous.
I could say I've seen a lot of things calling these games over the last couple of years, but I have never seen that happen once. So that would be definitely a spectacle if I were to see that happen here tonight.
It was kind of the thing about metal bats is they're not supposed to break like that.
No, obviously not.
I was stunned, I'll tell you.
Count here 1-1 to the Dolphin third baseman Anthony Cetera as he drills that one into right field, and that will drop in for a base hit. Cetera will stop at first base safely. He's on with a 1-out single.
Just what the Dolphins needed, a runner on base. Still a couple outs to give, and that was really good hitting from Cetera. That pitch was low and away, and he just sort of reached out and poked it into the opposite field, went with it instead of trying to pull, and he reaps the reward of that patient approach. And with just that one base runner, we're getting a mound visit. I'm not so sure he's going to take his pitcher out. No, it looks like he might. I think we're going to get a pitching change here.
And we are, Aaron. You're right. There is going to be a pitching change. So Bilello was cruising throughout this game. Allows the 1 hit here in the inning, and he's done after just 3 1/3. We saw him go 4 1/3 in his last start. He only goes 3 1/3 here. I would love to see what his pitch count is as well, but we'll get that number as we head to commercial break. Pitching change coming up for the Lions. They lead this one 4-1.
College sports.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
A return to normal, and all we love about sports.
You've instilled resilience, focus, and selflessness in us. We've put those lessons to work.
We've found strength and unity in each other.
You continue to take us places we never imagined.
You bring out the best in us.
So when we look forward, we see the light at the end of the tunnel.
We see a better world for all of us and for college sports.
And we're back from break here, and now a new pitching change here for Georgia Court this time around is Ellie Houston on in relief. Our starter Ryan Bilello. And Aaron, we were talking about it during break, wondering maybe why that was the case. Now, keep in mind, folks, for Georgia Court, they just played this past Friday, so a couple of days rest here for Bilello in that start. In that start against Erskine, he pitched. He threw 69 pitches in that game. He threw 66 here tonight. So a little bit of rest from those two starts. Maybe that is the reason why he came out this early into the game, only going 3 1/3. But now the Dolphins will face a new pitcher in Houston, and for him, this will be his, I believe, second appearance. If that is the case, this will be his second appearance of the young season.
It's interesting to think about what Bilello pitching again today after having pitched on Friday means about the pitching staff for Georgian Court.
Yeah.
I believe they have 19 pitchers on their roster, but they decided to go to their first guy on 3 days rest instead of seeing what else they can put out there on the mound so early on in the season.
That one hit towards the bullpen of Georgian Court, and no play will be made. Foul down the right field line.
I mean, really well done by Waterman. Was that Waterman? I must have seen the number wrong.
Not.
There's no way it could have been.
Yeah, it's not. That is Burrito up at the plate.
Because I'm looking at the... Wow, what a silly mistake. It was Mara. It wasn't number one, just the other.
Down the right field line. He was making the play. Yeah, he almost got there.
Covering so much ground.
Yeah. Count is now 0-2 quickly. Burrito has one of the Dolphins' 3 hits in this game, and of course has the lone Dolphin run on that RBI single. As they now officially changed the count up on the board. The count is 1-1. So 1-1 count, huge difference now from an 0-2 count here for Burrito.
2 for 2 in his collegiate career.
Yeah, 2 for 2 now. He's got a 2-1 count, and the Dolphins would love to get to Ellie Houston, who, as I mentioned, is making his second appearance of the season, and a very good first appearance he had. A 1-2-3 scoreless inning in that game against Erskine. Now the count says 1-2. But here's a ground ball to short. Could be a double play ball. 6, 4. They won't turn to 3 as a low throw from second base takes the first baseman off the bag. So a 6-4 fielder's choice for the out at second base puts 2 outs in the inning.
Not quite clean enough for Georgian Court. The shortstop, Reben, fumbled it just a little bit as he was trying to flip it to his second baseman, and that caused the second baseman to rush his throw, Mara, altogether, or allowed the Dolphins an extra base runner that they maybe wouldn't have had.
Well, here's a big at-bat right here, Aaron, because Michael Fleischer comes up to the plate, the number 9 here in the Dolphin order. If he can get on base, it would bring the tying run to the plate, and that would be the top of the lineup, which is Chris Palomini, who we mentioned is tied for the Dolphin lead in home runs this season. So they would love to get Fleischer on right here, quickly up in the count 2-0.
Palomini is high up in the ECC and quite a few stats, like you mentioned. He's got 2 home runs, which is technically tied for third in the conference. After this pitch, I'll run us through a couple more stats.
Quickly 3-0 now for Fleischer.
So he comes into today with a 448 batting average, good for second in the conference. 793 slug, 529 on base, a 1.322 OPS, all good for third in the East Coast Conference so far this season. So he's right at the top of all of those batting leaderboards as that pitch goes behind the batter for a walk.
And now the Dolphins will bring that tying run to the plate in Palomini. And we saw that first at bat he had, Aaron. He drilled that pitch into left center field. But a great play was made in left field to make that out. And now here comes up as the tying run, 2 outs of the inning. And the Dolphins would love an extra base hit or something at least to just get on and keep this inning going and give them a potential RBI or maybe even 2.
Palomini in the clutch situation.
Look out on that one. Had to duck out of the way. Houston has missed with his last couple of pitches. That one misses for a ball 1-0.
Palomini might not get an opportunity to swing the bat here as Houston's struggling to get the ball over the plate.
On deck for the Dolphins is TJ Leno. Palomini would love to do some damage right here. Can do it with one swing potentially. Drilled that one down the right field line, and we'll go into foul play and out of play. Count goes to 1-1.
You can tell he's eager because that pitch was high and away. as Houston's still trying to locate his pitches correctly, but Palomini wants to make that impact.
Yeah, Palomini right now, you could get the sense, wants to tie this game in one swing. He wants an opportunity to do so. I mentioned that at bat the first time around. I thought he had a home run right off of the bat. It kind of died towards left center field. But love to do something here with a 1-1 pitch coming here. On the outside for strike 2, the count goes to 1-2.
That's a nice pitch there by Houston. Just barely caught that outside corner on the off-speed pitch. Found his stuff right at the most opportune moment, 1 strike away from getting out of the jam.
Count now 1-2 here for Houston, trying to get out of this potential chance for CSI to, with 1 swing, tie the game. That one chopped down the third base line but goes foul.
And, maybe you don't tie the game, maybe you don't get the big moment, but you could really use just something.
Yeah, they would love. I think for CSI, they would love to get this, at least get Palomini on, because then you bring up Leno, and then you can bring up Bigliotti after that, and give your 2 and 3 hitters, and then get to the cleanup hitter and Hunter, and give them some chances as the inning can go on. And as you mentioned earlier on in the inning, CSI trying to get a 2-out rally once again, and bring home some more runs. The count remains 1-2 to the Dolphins center fielder. The breaking ball hit to third and under the glove for a base hit. Run will score. They will hold the runner at second. Palomini does deliver on that RBI base hit and gives CSI now put the game now at 4-2 for Georgian Court.
Well, what a fortuitous moment for the Dolphins. You mentioned Hitnick. I'm not so sure they'll score it as a hit. That could certainly go down as an E5, as the ball might have even gone through the legs of the third baseman, Carter.
I think it went under the glove. He was in position, and now looking back on it, I think that will go down as an E5. It's tough to call. It was a hard hit ball towards third base, but the third baseman was in position to make the play, so I think that might get changed to an E5 officially. But a big break for the Dolphins now, Aaron, because now TJ Leno, who, as you mentioned in their last stars, we get a pitching change as well coming here for Georgian Court. So quickly, Houston is out of this game. But you mentioned his heroics against Chestnut Hill back on Saturday. With 1 swing once again for Leno, he can give CSI the lead.
That's right. Now they have the momentum rolling downhill. Still only 1 out to work with, but all it takes is finding that gap in the infield to really get this engine going at full speed. New pitcher on the mound is... That's
Jadon Cabazudo.
Jadon Cabazudo. Let's see if he has any stats on the season so far.
I should say Jadon Cabazudo. So Cabazudo comes on, and Aaron, he was one of those players I mentioned earlier. That's one of those guys that is a 2-way player for this Georgian Court roster. Can hit and pitch as well. For Cabazudo, this will be his second appearance of the season. He's pitched 3 innings of relief, 3 runs, all of those earned, 4 walks and 2 strikeouts. So that's something the Dolphins might look into as he comes into relief. The issue with walks, definitely a early factor for him on this young season. And with Leno at bat, you have Vigliotti on deck. They would love to get, as I mentioned earlier, to the heart of this lineup and give them a chance to regain this lead.
I'm having a look further into this stat line, Nick, and it's fascinating. It really is. Like you mentioned, he's pitched those 3 innings. He's got a 9 ERA from those 3 earned runs. However, he is not allowed to hit. He's not allowed to hit. All of those runs have come from walks. He's issued 4 walks to go along with 2 strikeouts. Right. So he has a very fascinating complementary stat line of a 9.0 ERA with a 1.33 walks and hits per inning pitched.
Don't see that very often, a player giving up 4 runs and none of them off of a hit.
I know,
all
right?
All off of walks.
So this could be a very costly pitching change if he comes in here and is unable to find the strike zone.
Well, I think the mindset for CSI, and I think what they told Leno up coming in this at bat, let him make a mistake pitch. Don't chase at anything. Let him work. A nice breaking ball on that first pitch is in there for a strike. The count goes to 0-1.
The last thing you want to do is make it easier for them to get out of the inning because you so badly wanted to make the impact play. That's what I was worried about with Palomini. As a Mets fan who's watched Pete Alonso do that in so many different situations because he just wanted to be that guy to make the moment, you just got to be patient and stick to your approach.
All right. Yeah, sometimes players try to make hero ball plays, and it just doesn't work most of the time. Big swing and a miss from Leno right there, and he's now down the count 1-2. So Cabazzuto now is one strike away from getting Georgian Court out of this inning and keeping them up by 2 runs. Here comes the 1-2. Leno hits that one to left center. That one could be trouble. Diving play not to be made. 1 run will score. They will hold the runner at third. Palomini almost. He might, I don't know, he might have hurt himself on the way to third. He is okay. But nonetheless, the Dolphins do get another run in on the RBI double from TJ Leno. It's now 4-3.
Well, really good job batting there from Leno. Took the ball the other way, just trying to get something down, and he did exactly what the Dolphins needed. They draw within 1 run of their opponents, 2 runners in scoring position now. One thing I will say is I think that effort from the center fielder there, Rodriguez, actually prevented a run because he had such a good beat on it that the runners couldn't tell whether or not they needed to go. That being said, there are 2 outs, so they should have been on their horse.
You had to go to begin with. But I think, it's going back to the point that I was making with Palomini. Palomini was rounding third, but I think he took a misstep and he kind of like skid his leg over the third base bag, and I think he maybe overextended it, which that was a concern of mine originally. He's still in the game, but we'll show it on replay before we go to break. As Vigliotti hits that one into right field, that's it for a base hit. 1 run will score. Here comes Leno from second. He will score. Throw guts away from the catcher, allowing Vigliotti to get into second base. It's a 2-run single from A.J. Vigliotti. The Dolphins have the lead 5-4.
Look at this burst of offense from the home team. That's their 4th hit of the inning, and they're coming through with 2 outs to make it happen. I think even the most optimistic fans were just hoping for a couple runs to get closer, but they fully turned this game on their head, and the top of the order has not disappointed, Nick.
That is certainly the case. And here as Hunter now comes up. Count goes to 0-1. Here's a replay of that 2-run single for Vigliotti. He goes to second base on the wild throw.
As we mentioned, this pitcher
having to duck out of the way on that one is Hunter.
Cabazzuto had not allowed a hit thus far in his career. Now he certainly has, and it's been to the further detriment of his ERA.
Another 2-out rally as well, Aaron, for CSI in this game. That got them their first run of this contest, and it has gotten them their last 4. Big hits, and as we mentioned with that Flashner at bat, they would love to have gotten back to the top of the lineup in this order. Palomini delivered with a single, Leno delivered with a single, or I should say a double, and Vigliotti delivered with a single as well. 3 straight hits for the Dolphins. It's Vigliotti going to third, and that one's hit foul, and you don't see that very often there. Vigliotti running as the Dolphins go for another hit and run right there.
I just love the aggression. They're feeling themselves. They're trying to make unexpected plays. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll see him try to run again as the element of surprise has now been lost. But what I really love about this inning, Nick, is the sort of pass-it-on mentality. Just get on base, put the ball in play, and allow your next guy an opportunity to do something as well. We've talked a little bit about the eagerness of trying to make the big play, but they haven't done that, and it's worked out perfectly. It's just nice, productive baseball. Simple.
Yeah, we mentioned when Cabazzuto came in that the Dolphins need to make the pitch count work and having to find that mistake pitch in this inning, and they have found that these last couple of at-bats. As that one is hit a mile high towards shallow center, and the center fielder will make the catch for the final out of the inning. The Dolphins will strand a runner in scoring position, but not before they bring home 4 runs here in this bottom of the 4th inning. Brand new ball game as we head to the top of the 5th. CSI leads this one 5-4.
across divisions, sports, championships, and schools for nearly 500,000 student athletes. College sports create lifelong opportunity, and that starts with education. We've raised the academic bar, so more are earning degrees, creating healthier campuses by working with the nation's brightest minds, and making sure more have the chance to succeed and are supported on their journey. But beyond the numbers, it's about opportunity, and we're working to provide it for every student athlete.
Top of the fifth inning here at SIUH Community Park, and once again, Aaron, we have a brand new ball game. Dolphins now lead this one 5-4 off a 4-run, 2-out rally from CSI in that last half inning. As now Alex Martinez has now worked himself into a position where if CSI can hold on to this lead, he is in line for the win if this game continues to go the way the Dolphins have it so far.
Right, the first decision for Martinez of the season should things hold, because he's currently got a 0-0 record on that one appearance, and an early test of character for this newly founded Georgian Court squad.
And you were telling me during our break you had an interesting story about their manager, Arian Freeman.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about him. I think it's Arlen Freeman with an L.
That's Arian.
It's Arian?
Yeah. We are in a room where we don't have the light on, and the reason for that, folks, is we're trying to keep our camera view without a glare from the window that's currently here inside the press box.
Nick, are you sure?
That is an I next to the R. Oh wait, you're right. It is Arlen. It looked different. You're right. It is Arlen. It looked weird on my thing because I thought I saw a dot on the I. Okay, so you're right. Arlen Freeman. Apologies to our Georgia Court viewers.
I thought I was going
crazy.
All
right, so Arlen Freeman, the manager of the Lions. You had an interesting story on him.
Yeah, so, throughout this game so far, we've been talking about the decision-making of switching out the pitchers.
That one's a fair ball down the third base line. Didn't mean to cut you off, Aaron, but there is a base hit, and it will be an extra base hit for the Lions as they lead this fifth inning off with a double.
So in terms of responding, I mentioned earlier after the 4 spot for the Lions that you really want to get some sort of response after a 4 spot by the other team. Georgian Court providing that, just a little spark of energy to get your dugout back in the game. But Arlen Freeman obviously launching a new program here at Georgian Court, but this is not the first program that he has launched, Nick.
Really?
His previous job, he launched the St. Elizabeth University baseball program.
Okay.
Hired in fall 2018, first season in 2020, and he was there for their first 4 seasons. So he is perhaps uniquely qualified for this kind of baseball coaching spot. He has that experience of putting together a program from scratch.
Yeah, it's never easy to do that, for any coach, having to build a program from up within. And the fact that he's already done that once is definitely good for this Georgian Court team. Now trying to build this newly found program into something. And they showed some great fights so far in these first couple of games, especially here tonight, as the batter Caleb Carter showing bunt, trying to move Mara into scoring position, who led off the inning with a double. But that shows great testament to this entire roster that, Freeman was able to build a program beforehand, now into a newer position here at Georgia Court, and is doing the exact same thing they did before.
Yeah, he's definitely a nice asset to have for Georgian Court, a bit of a catch. He's got 15 seasons of coaching experience, 7 as a head coach. He's been to a myriad of different schools, including New Paltz, including Stevens, including Felician. He's coached at the Cape Cod League, the Summer League, very well known for developing talent. So this is a guy that really knows how to lead a squad.
They throw it from Brio back to second, not in time, as Mara's back in safely. Caleb Carter, who's been showing bunt these last couple of pitches, Aaron, is up 3-1 in the count. He'll definitely be showing bunt once again here, but has a chance to work a walk and give Georgian Court first and second, still nobody out in the inning.
Georgian Court could tie this up with one swing of the bat already.
Doesn't show bunt there and does work the walk. So a leadoff double followed by a walk. First and second, still nobody out in the inning. Alex Elliott, the batter, now here for the Lions. Corner infielders will move up in for the Dolphins. They're expecting another bunt, as the middle infielders will stay back for the double play potential.
Not that bad to get a walk here.
There is the bunt. Martinez will throw it to first, as covering the first base bag was second baseman Leno. So a 1-4 put out right there on the sacrifice. Now puts one away in the inning, but does give Georgian Court second and third in the spot.
That out does give Martinez a bit of a way out of the inning if he can produce a strikeout here. Even a fly ball into the outfield will at least give the Dolphins a better chance of coming out of the inning without being down. But again, Georgian Court creating without getting hits.
And a wild pitch will lead to the game-tying run. As scoring on that wild pitch was Mara. Advancing the third is Carter. And it's now a 5-5 game once again.
I believe that's the third run scored by the Lions off of pitches getting to the backstop. And man, that's got to be frustrating for the Dolphins dugout, considering how hard they worked to produce their own runs.
It's still just one out in the inning, but now the go-ahead run at third base here for Georgian Court. And that one almost got away once again, but a nice stop by Burrito as the count goes to 2-0. And the Dolphins right now don't have anyone warming up in their bullpen. There is some stretching currently going on towards the Dolphin bullpen, but no one warming up at the moment. So this is currently Martinez's inning, and the Dolphins are hoping that he can at least keep this game tied, and at the very worst, have a one-run deficit heading into the home fifth. The 2-0. Tamargo hits that one foul. Count goes to 2-1.
Just want to make a comment about the catcher, Burrito. He is catching with confidence. Looks like a seasoned veteran out there. Even had the wherewithal to try a pickoff attempt at second base.
Yeah.
I really like what he's got going on there behind the plate. Filling in very well for Kehoe.
Dolphins are looking for a big spark for their catching, considering if Kehoe is out for an extended time, they will need one. Is that one in there for a strike? Evens the count at 2, and Martinez, Aaron, could really use a strikeout in the spot to get the second out of the inning and give the Dolphins a chance to get out of the inning, at least tied with the tie game.
Probably the biggest pitch of the game so far right here.
The 2-2. It misses on the inside for ball 3, and the count goes full at 3-2.
A walk here doesn't change that much as there's still no force out for the runner at third.
Israel Garcia, the batter on deck for the Lions. 3-2 pitch here to Tamargo. He chops it to second. Leno checks the runner at third, and he'll throw it to first base in time for the second out. Runner will stay as well, so a very productive out right there, recorded by the Dolphins, and a good heads-up play by Leno to check the runner at third and keep him from scoring. And now it'll be up to Garcia to try to bring home that go-ahead run.
It's perfectly executed and exactly why you bring the infield in. And not only that, but he turned to first and he delivered a quick throw. He wasn't nonchalant because if he switches off there even for a second, the runner could take that opportunity to break for home.
So Israel Garcia up with 2 away. That one misses on the inside for a ball. Count 1-0. Carter, the runner at third, would love to get home and give Georgia Court back a 1-run lead. The 1-0. Skips in the dirt on the outside for ball 2, and as you pointed out, Aaron, another great play behind the backstop by Brito. Almost another dangerous wild pitch right there that would have given Georgia Court back the lead.
It's a lot of pressure to step into the shoes of a respected senior player on the team, and Brito has done it without breaking stride.
The 2-0. That one in there for a strike now, 2-1.
And he's, one of many young players on this Dolphins roster. They've got 13 freshmen on this team. Bright future ahead.
And I believe some of their catchers that are behind Keogh, I think 2 or all 3 of them are all freshmen as well. Hunter being one of them, Brito as well. That one hit to short. Off the glove of Flashner and in for a base hit. Israel Garcia will deliver it. RBI single and deliver Georgia Court back the lead. It's 6-5.
Well, the lead for the Dolphins was short-lived. Good offense from Georgian Court coming through by the barrel of their bats this time instead of, benefiting off of walks. Difficult play there for Flashner. We've had some debates over errors and hits. That one was definitely a hit.
Yeah.
Would have been a web gem if he could have snagged that.
Yeah, trying to scoop that one off the bounce towards that line drive at short, but just not able to do so. As Garcia delivers the go-ahead run, it gives Georgia Court once again back the lead now, 6-5 to score. Current 0-1 count now goes to 0-2 for Martinez, as he is 1 strike away from keeping this a 1-run score. The batter at the play right now for the Lions is Joshua Moreno. Comes the 0-2. And misses low for ball 1.
What I will say about the position from which we are broadcasting is that we get a really good view of where the pitch crosses the plate. I cannot say that about every location where I've broadcasted baseball.
That is true. That is true. There's a lot of good advantages in, being here at this facility, as I mentioned earlier on in our broadcast, and that is definitely one of them as well. It's now 1-2 here for Martinez, and that one hit into right field. Could be trouble for Keogh. Long run, and it's going to be a 1 bounce off the wall. Garcia will round third. He will score with ease. It's an RBI double for Joshua Moreno, and it's now a 7-5 lead for the Lions.
Well, he really got a hold of that one, Moreno. He drove that one. It almost went over the wall for a ground rule double.
I had to catch myself. I thought that was a home run for a second, Aaron.
It felt that way coming off the bat. I mean, he really got all of it. I think we talked a little bit about the wind. I think if the wind was blowing in another direction, he would have had it. Nevertheless, it's still an RBI extra base hit. It is his first RBI. No, it's not, because he had one earlier today, did he not?
And Dunbar hit by the pitch, so he will go to first base. The inning will extend from Martinez. And once again, Aaron, for both of these sides, most of the work tonight has been done with 2 outs. And Larry Rodriguez now the batter. I think that will potentially lead to a pitching change. I didn't see any movement down the Dolphin bullpen there. As I mentioned earlier, there was just some stretching going on. So this could be just a mound visit for CSI. But it does look like there's maybe a potential for a pitching change in the spot. But now the biggest spot here for Martinez as well, Aaron, in this one. Larry Rodriguez, the number 9 batter in the lineup. You need to get this out because it goes back to the top of the lineup for Georgian Court.
Yeah, you just mentioned how the number of outs, 2 outs, is really not a factor considering what we've seen so far tonight. And it's just about damage limitation at this point. Get yourself out of the difficult situation as quickly as possible before the bleeding continues. And just try and get the momentum back to your side of the Dolphins because, they were in the fortuitous position having the lead, and that's been quickly ripped from them. It's a question of how much more offense can the Dolphins produce in the remaining innings.
I do see a lefty warming up in the Dolphin bullpen. That might be Michael Santoriello. It should be because he is the only left-handed reliever listed on the Dolphins roster. So Santoriello looks to be the next man in line for the Dolphins in this spot. Count is 1-0 here to Rodriguez. He chops that one to third. Satara will go the short way to second, and they do not get the out. As Leno had to come off the bag on the throw from Satara, and E5 on that play will now load the bases.
Well, sometimes you get the breaks and sometimes you don't. Personally speaking, I felt as though the foot was still on the bag when the catch was made, but I'm not the umpire. And unfortunately, Martinez, who should be out of the inning, now has to deal with a bases-loaded situation in the top of the order coming up for the Lions.
We've been up to the plate here. Cal is 1-0, and there's the other problem too, Aaron. Can't afford a walk in this spot now. No bases to play with. He has the bases loaded, a 2-run game, and he really needs this out. Otherwise, Georgia Court can already extend this already 2-run lead to even further right here. The 1-0. And it misses for ball 2.
And as we mentioned, we don't know a whole lot about what these players are like and what they're capable of, but based on the information available to us, the leadoff batter here, Carter Reben, is the most dangerous guy that they've got.
The 2-0. That one hit foul towards the press box. Maybe a little bit more towards the suites. Down towards our right. The count goes 2-1. Dolphins can get the force at any base right here. They really need this out to keep this a 2-run contest. Here comes the 2-1. Nice breaking ball on the outside for strike 2. And the count now evens at 2.
Reben came into this game with only 1 strikeout so far in his 9 at-bats. So perhaps not a player that you would expect to go down on strikes.
Here comes the 2-2. And he does go down on strikes. Strike 3 swinging. A huge punch out for Martinez as he strands the bases loaded to retire the side. But not before the Lions attack for 3 runs here in the top half of the 5th. We head to the home half of the 5th inning. Georgia Court now leads this one, 7-5.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor.
It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Jaden Waterman leads it off here at the bottom of the 5th inning. And once again, Aaron, for the 3rd straight inning, I say this. A brand new ball game once again as Georgian Court has retaken the lead. 7-5 here at the bottom of the 5th.
This has been a roller coaster of a scoreline.
Yeah, that roller coaster is definitely the word for it.
Flip-flopping the lead. Oh, my
Look
goodness.
out, Waterman. Had to back out of the way on that one. Count goes quickly to 2-0 for him.
Now, we talked about the head coach, Arlen Freeman, for Georgian Court. And I also wanted to mention...
Waterman hits that one into right field. But it looks playable towards that right field wall, and it just misses that wall in right field. As the out is made in right field for the first out.
Gave that ball quite a ride, as we mentioned, or I should say as we talked about before the game started. You told me that most of the home runs in the stadium go over that right field wall.
Yep.
That was surprisingly close. He was right on the warning track.
Brings up Jack Keel with one away, but going back to your original point.
Yeah, I wanted to make quick mention of the head coach for the College of Staten Island, Michael Morrow. Very well known. He's in his 17th season, recently eclipsed 300 wins. And having seen that, I wanted to check in on his record, at least according to the website. And the website had him as 310, 272, and 1. I don't know if you know about that.
I didn't know about the one. I knew about the rest of it, but did not know about that one. It's funny. The 300th career win is a very funny story as well.
Is it?
And my broadcast partner, Joe Foreman, knows about it. We had a game here last year against Caldwell. Dolphins were leading that game 7-1. Keo laid down a bunt, but it goes foul. And I had texted Joe. I said, do we have any graphics ready in case of a 300th career win happening in this game? And he said, yes, you can make one real quickly. I made it real quickly. And he was texting me out there the entire game about it. And the Dolphins ended up blowing that game, unfortunately, 7-1 lead. Now they lost that game 8-7.
Oh man!
So after the game ended, Keo, I don't know how he made contact with that one. He had to take a back step and hit that one, foul down the right field line. So I texted Joe after. I said, "Is that a commentator's jinx for someone that wasn't even commenting the game?" Because Joe was back in Florida in that game. But in fairness for Joe, the good thing for him is that he was able to call Morrow's 300 career win at CSI, as that one is through for a base hit for Keo. He's on with a 1-out single. So he did at least get to have the moment and see at least the Gatorade shower afterwards of Morrow celebrating that 300th career win. And
very nice.
There were a couple of milestones last year for CSI. You know, not only that happening, we saw Chris Palomini hitting, or I shouldn't say hitting, but he got the record for stolen bases in the season for CSI as well last season. I mentioned it on Sunday. We had a very memorable moment with both Palomini brothers hitting a home run on Heroes Day, honoring their late father. So a lot of great moments happening on Sportsnet last season for this Dolphins team. And as I'm sure they're hoping for this season, they're looking to make a lot more memorable moments as this season goes along, as the count now goes to 1-1.
Very interesting backstory to the 300th win, Nick.
Yeah, I think it was one where, we were both trying not to jinx it. There's a blooper into right, but Mara will make the play in shallow right field for the second out of the inning. It was one of those where you had to be ready just in case. And then as the game went on, the unfortunate way of how the game went and finished, that's where it was like, we've had our commentators jinx us in the past, but how does that count for someone that wasn't on the broadcast in that scenario? We had the graphic ready for social media as well and everything, and everyone was ready to post it, and unfortunately, we had to wait a couple more weeks to post that graphic as Keo goes to second, and he somehow is able to beat the tag.
Wow.
I don't know how he did. He must have, that throw was in there before Keo got to second base.
And it definitely was the right call from the ump. You could tell by the reaction from the second baseman, Mara. I think the big thing about that was the throw was on the wrong side of the bag, so Mara had to kind of whip around and get that tag in place, and it just provided an opportunity for Kehoe to kind of swim with his left arm.
A nice play behind the backstop from Garcia right there. Saved a wild pitch and saved the runner Kehoe from going from second to third. So he remains at second base, the count going to 1-1.
But I did want to go back to that tie, it was on March 25th, 2017 against William Patterson, back when CSI was a D3 team in the CUNYAC conference. Do you want to have any guess as to why this game
had to be weather? No?
In a sense.
Mara hit, or I should say Brito hits that one to Mara for the final out of the inning. So what was the exact reason?
They suspended play due to darkness.
Darkness. And they never replayed the rest of the game.
They never replayed the rest of the game. They concluded in a tie.
I don't think I've ever heard that one before. But I'll tell you what, that's the beauty of being at this ballpark here tonight. There's going to be no chance of darkness happening, knock on wood. But the lights are on here at the stadium here at SIUH Community Park as we now head to the top of the 6th inning. Georgia Court still leads this one, 7-5.
When all eyes are on the court, we're focused on what matters most, preparing college athletes for a lifetime of opportunity. After the buzzer, off the court, it's about education and working to earn a degree. Creating healthier campuses through groundbreaking research and policies. And a fair shot so dreams can stay on track. United as an association, we've got work to do. We're building a pathway to lifelong opportunity.
First pitch swinging right here for the Dolphin new pitcher. Frank Morrow hits it off of Michael Santoriello. Hits that one foul toward the Lion dugout. For Santoriello, this will be his 3rd appearance of the season. He's pitched 2 1/3, has allowed 5 hits, 6 runs, 4 of those earned, 2 walks, 1 strikeout so far on this young season. His last appearance on the year came back when the Dolphins were in Myrtle Beach against Adelphi University. So Aaron comes into a spot where CSI trailing in this game already 7-5, try to keep the Dolphins within reach.
Very important outing here for Santoriello as he's already got a strikeout. That's a solid start. You never want to see an ERA with 4 digits in it, Nick.
Yeah, that's true. In hindsight, that is definitely the case.
But especially with such a small sample size in mind, you really can't go off of ERA in the college game. However, the raw numbers themselves do speak for the level of performance he's had so far. Opportunity here to sort of put himself on the right path for the rest of the season. A lot of games to go.
Retired Marr on just 3 pitches. He's quickly up in the count here, 0-2. So he's got a potential to strike out the first 2 batters on just 6 pitches. As he faces Caleb Carter right here.
One of the Carters on this squad, both of which you have to be wary of.
Just missed on that outside corner for a ball, 1-2 now the count.
Caleb Carter came in to this game batting .250, 12 plate appearances. He had 3 hits, 1 RBI, 3 total bases. So just a couple singles.
And he is down swinging for the second out. So Santoriello has come out of the gate with back-to-back punch-outs. The Dolphins are hoping that he can get a 1-2-3 inning here in the 6th. As we've known, as we've said a couple times there have been a lot of 2-out rallies from both of these teams in this game. So He's hoping that is not the case here in the 6th, and he can retire the 2, 3, 4 hitters consecutively. But that will not be the case, as that is through for a base hit. First pitch swinging right there for Alex Elliott, and he's on with a 2-out single.
I'm shaking my head at you, Nick.
I said hoping. I didn't say it was going to happen. I don't think that one counts as a commentator's jinx. I've had some more egregious ones.
Well, that's for certain. But now we got a runner on first. Still 2 outs. Plenty of opportunity to get out of this scot-free.
And I'll tell you what, the first couple of innings, we were through the first, I think, 3, where both teams had just 3 hits. And now right there's another 2-out base hit. And Waterman lost it for a second, but will be able to retrieve it and hold the runner, Elliott, at second. So another 2-out single, this time off the bat of Tamargo. And going back to my point, and it kind of ties into what happened just there, the first 3 innings we had a combined 2 hits. Now here in the 6th, both teams are combined for 14 hits in this game.
It speaks to the depth of pitching maybe that these two teams have available to them. Credit to the offenses as well, before they were sort of skirting by on walks and stolen bases, but they've really, made the most of earning these runs later in the game. And they're big splashes, too. A couple 4 spots and a 3 spot, so chunk scoring here.
Israel Garcia, the batter, he's responsible for giving Georgia Court back the lead in that 5th inning. And he's quickly up in the count 2-0, so this is what I was speaking about a few minutes ago, Aaron. The Dolphins got the first 2 outs of the inning, back-to-back hits allowed by Santoriello, and now is quickly behind the count here 2-0. And another potential 2-out rally being built right here by Georgian Court. This time had to be issued as one of the warm-up balls from the reliever in the bullpen for Georgian Court got behind home plate. So they had to call time, and play is now resumed. Dolphins really hoping that they can get out right here and keep this game within 2 runs. Santoriello almost hits Garcia, and he's now in danger of loading the bases here. The count goes to 3-0.
It's such a shame because I was going to say relief pitching is such a confidence position in baseball, and he really had something going with those first 2 outs, but it seems like the train may have come off the rails a little bit.
And he walks him on 4 pitches, and just like that, Santoriello has gone from a 1-2-3 inning to now loading the bases, all with 2 outs. And now it's a great chance for Joshua Moreno here to get Georgia Court some more runs. Another lefty-lefty matchup. The Dolphins will have the play at any base. Santoriello really needs this one, Aaron.
And Moreno has been having a good evening. I believe last time he was up, he rocketed one into deep right center field.
Yeah, almost had a home run on that last at-bat. That one hits off the glove of Burrito in there for a strike, but no runners will move up. Count goes 0-1.
Moreno, who only had 1 at-bat coming into this game.
Huge at-bat right here early in this game. Top of the 6th. 7-5 lead for Georgia Court. And it's a throw for a base hit. 1 run will score. Here comes the 2nd run. That will score as well. The 2-out rally once again continues for Georgian Court as Moreno delivers a 2-run single. It's now 9-5.
Well, you just have to give credit to the Lions offense. They just continue to find holes time and time again, stringing those hits together when seemingly there's nothing for them to have in the inning. I mean, we thought that this was going to be a quick one for Santoriello. Unfortunately for him, he just could not get that final strike.
And Aaron, I mentioned this. This was a problem for CSI last season. It's happened early in this season, especially when it happened on Sunday. The Dolphins have been able to get the first 2 outs of the inning and have not been able to get that 3rd out. And it's happened a couple times here tonight. That's a shallow fly ball hit into right field. Keogh is there, still running on the play, and thankfully for the Dolphins, is able to make the catch for the final out of the inning. That was a very almost dangerous play for CSI right there. So Georgia Court brings home 2 more runs here in the top of the 6th inning. all coming via with 2 outs in the inning. We now head to the home half of the 6th. Georgia Core leads this one 9-5.
On and off the court, we're focused on creating lifelong opportunity, and that starts with education. More college athletes are earning degrees than ever before, but we've still got work to do. That's why we're raising the bar for incoming freshmen, so they're prepared when they get to campus. And why teams can't play in championships unless they make the grade. Education matters, and putting academics first creates a pathway to a lifetime of opportunity.
First pitch of the inning is swung on and hit to short for the first out. So 1 pitch, 1 out retired here in the home half of the 6th inning for CSI. As they now trail this game 9-5, Aaron. And it's back to the top of the line. Chris Palomini comes up with 1 away.
Want to give credit to the first baseman, Dummeyer there. Nice pick on the short hop. Bailing out his shortstop, Reben, whose throw didn't quite make it all the way to the bag.
Palomini swings and misses for a strike 0-1. Been a very busy week for us here, Aaron, on CSI for all of our athletics. So as of past weekend, we had senior day for basketball on Saturday. Sunday, we had a couple of games here for baseball. Joe Foreman, our broadcast partner, as well as Joe Calabrese, calling the first couple of games at the spring games in Florida. They continued that coverage yesterday as well as today. I think they believe they have an off day tomorrow, so they'll be able to rest for just about a day before they finish the trip up on Thursday and Friday. But for tomorrow for CSI, especially for the men's basketball team, they start playoff action. They will be at Roberts Wesleyan trying to advance to the second round of the ECC playoffs and have a very daunting matchup with Damon in that second round.
Traveling all the way up to Rochester, New York, that's quite a way for a conference tournament. Hopefully they make the trip worthwhile. What is that, like a 5-hour drive or something like that?
I think so, yeah. Oof. And Aaron, I mean, considering that they might have to play Damon, who we know has had an unbelievable season here, 16-0 conference record, 25-0 on the season entirely. Would be a very daunting task for CSI if they were able to get past Roberts Wesleyan tomorrow and take on the Wildcats in the semifinals. But if you remember, last season the Dolphins took both regular season matchups from the Wildcats. They lost them in the playoffs. So stranger things have happened as Palomini strikes out for the second out of the inning.
Something I love to say about conference play and conference tournaments is you just throw everything else out the window. You never know what's going to happen. It's kind of like, a division rivalry in the NFL. It doesn't matter what happens in any of the other games.
It's kind of like, considering it's now March, it's kind of like the NCAA tournament for college basketball Division I, where anything realistically can happen on, the change of a dime. And it's kind of how tonight's happened as well, this game here, A lot of lead changes have happened. And we've seen some very interesting ways of how these teams have been able to take the leads. Most of the time, these two teams have been taking the lead with 2 outs in the inning. But going back to that game, if the Dolphins were able to get past the Red Hawks, that won't be an easy task. But if they were able to do so, then it would be interesting to see if maybe they could pull off what a lot of people would consider to be a major upset over that Damon team.
Well, we'll be eagerly watching that matchup. For now, obviously, we're here with the baseball squad, who are down by 4 runs, 9-5, and they got to make something happen as their opportunities become fewer and fewer.
TJ Lano, the batter here, has a count of now 2-2. Dolphins again looking for some 2-out magic. We've seen a lot of it so far, as I mentioned. And Lano now has the count full of 3-2.
One would normally think that we're very close to the end of the inning. I've come to learn differently.
Yeah. Anytime you think it's going to be closer to the end, it just continues and continues. It looked like Lano just got a piece of that one. He extends the at-bat. It's still full of 3-2.
I don't think we have access to this kind of statistic, but I just love to know how many of the 15 hits and 14 runs in this game have come with 2 outs, because it's got to be all but like 2.
I really think it's all but 2. I don't think you're wrong about that statement. It has felt like the majority of the hits have come with 2 outs. And right there on point, a 2-out walk issued by Lano as he extends the inning. And A.J. Vigliotti comes up to the bat, and we saw his last time up to the plate, Aaron. He was a couple of inches away from a home run, so he would love to get something. We also saw him deliver the Dolphins' go-ahead run earlier in this game, so if he's able to get something here, that would be huge for CSI, but it looks like he will face a new pitcher upcoming here from the line, so before we head to break, we'll see who that new pitcher is. It's going to be a left-handed reliever, I can tell you that. Fortunately, we don't have who's a lefty and a righty on our roster for Georgian Court, so we'll have to figure out who that is once he gets to the mound.
Can we get a number on him?
I think I see a 2.
I want to say 21.
I'm thinking the same thing.
If only he would just turn around.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, Aaron. Let's go to commercial break, and we'll find out during our break who our new pitcher is. Georgia Court leads us 9-5.
When all eyes are on the court, we're focused on what matters most, preparing college athletes for a lifetime of opportunity. After the buzzer, off the court, it's about education and working to earn a degree. Creating healthier campuses through groundbreaking research and policies. And a fair shot so dreams can stay on track. United as an association, we've got work to do. We're building a pathway to lifelong opportunity.
All right, and we have found the identity of the new pitcher, Aaron. It is number 21, Brady Parks, on in relief here for the Lions in the bottom of the 6th inning. He'll face A.J. Vigliotti with 2 outs. TJ Lano on first base. The Dolphins, once again, looking for their own 2-out rally to try to keep this game within reach.
Parks has made 1 appearance so far
about
this
that
season.
one right there, Aaron, but maybe not enough. right to the right fielder for the final out. But you can give us Brady Park's stats before we have to break.
I take my eye off the field for 1 second to look at the stats.
Bigliotti goes one pitch swinging to record the final out of this bottom of the sixth.
Well, I won't take too much time with Brady Parks, but he had one appearance in which he allowed 4 earned runs, 5 runs total on 2.2 innings pitched.
Well, I'll tell you what, considering we just went to commercial break, we'll stay here going into the top of the 7th inning. So CSI still trailing this game 9-5, and we'll have to see. Santoriello is going to. It looks like it's still the pitcher coming up into this inning for CSI, and that is indeed the case. They do have a pitcher warm up in their bullpen, but what do you think in this inning, Aaron? They really need to do to try to get back. Obviously, you want to keep this game a 4-run lead. The issue, obviously, also tonight has been 2 outs. They have not been able to register that third out of an inning, and that has really cost them in this game. But what do you think can maybe kickstart a potential rally from this team in this top half of the inning that can maybe translate into the bottom half of the inning?
In the top half of the inning, I'm just thinking solid defense here. We've seen a couple crucial defensive mistakes that have sort of cracked the door open for Georgian Court to take further advantage of situations where maybe they get a run or 2, but they've been able to break that open to 3 or 4 situations like a couple pass balls that would have allowed runners to come in from third. We saw a missed throw from the third baseman, whose name is escaping me off the top of my head. Not Flashner, Sotero. He had that throw to second base where they were trying to get the force out that drew the second baseman slightly off the bag. Just really set yourself up for a confident bottom of the inning. Get out of it with a 0 on the scoreboard for the first time since the 5th. And for the first time since the 4th, excuse me. And just allow yourself to focus on your offense. I feel like that's been the thing of the Dolphins. They've been chasing. They've been trying to settle down on defense, and they haven't been able to do so.
So for Santoriello, comes into the spot. Now it's a 4-run game. The first pitch swinging right there is a fouled 0-1. The batter at the plate is, I believe, a pinch hitter. It's Jesse Lance. So Jesse Lance getting his first at-bat of the evening. He'll bat for Rodriguez in this spot. This kind of goes to 1-1. Oh, well, correction. I made a mistake, Aaron. I'll make my point in a second. That's still Rodriguez, as that ball was hit the left field and caught by Waterman, or excuse me, by Palomino for the first out. I initially thought off the bat that was an 8, and my eye vision obviously was not the case. That was still Rodriguez. He's still in the game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the viewers kind of caught a glimpse of it when we were trying to identify that relief pitcher in the past half inning, but the level of technology we deal with is we determine players by just looking at the number on the back of the jersey.
Yeah, I said to John Venezia, our another broadcast partner on Sunday, I said, it's been a long week for me with numbers, calling these games. I was doing stats on Saturday for basketball and looking at like potential tiebreakers for the men's basketball teams as well. So looking at all these numbers and then, coming into these games and looking at statistical numbers, I'm just thinking of course I made the wrong number wrong for the player at that spot. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Apologies to Rodriguez on that play.
And, they have the better numbers, the visitors here, Georgian Court. Meanwhile, the numbers on the Dolphins jerseys, I know that regular broadcaster Joe Foreman definitely has more than a few thoughts on the black on blacks.
Well, I'll tell you what, the one that's really bad is the soccer ones where it's white on white. And those have been a very pain for us doing stats sometimes, especially when we're in the press box. It's not easy to read those jerseys as there is a 1-out walk issued to Reben. He's on first base, and we've seen what he's done so far on the base pass tonight. But back to that Rodriguez out, that brings us back to the top of the lineup for Georgian Court. And now batting here is Frank Marr, who's had a nice impact as well in this game. But I think another big question for this inning, Aaron, is we saw Santoriello come out of relief. The Dolphins have a pitcher up in their bullpen. How long is the leash in this inning for Santoriello?
It's a good question. You would have thought, a couple outs ago, if you go back to when Santoriello first got into the game, that he could offer quite a lot of length, considering the way he handled the first 2 batters. But Now you might have some concerns about him being able to close out an inning.
And he gives up a base hit right there off the bat of Morrow. He's on once again with the base hit. And he'll get first and second, still 1 out of the inning for the Lions. And that right there, Aaron, will lead to the pitching change. So a quick visit coming up here from Mike Morrow. He'll take the ball from Santoriello, and we'll find out who the next Dolphin pitcher is when we come back from commercial break. Georgia Court leads this one, 9-5.
Across divisions, sports, championships, and schools for nearly 500,000 student athletes. College sports create lifelong opportunity, and that starts with education. We've raised the academic bar, so more are earning degrees, creating healthier campuses by working with the nation's brightest minds, and making sure more have the chance to succeed and are supported on their journey. But beyond the numbers, it's about opportunity, and we're working to provide it for every student athlete.
Ryan Fiore on a relief here at the top of the 7th for CSI. A 9-5 game still. A lead for the Lions. They're trying to extend it right here. That first pitch is in there for a strike to count 0-1. The batter here is Caleb Carter. Trying to do some damage here for Georgian Court and already extend this 4-run lead.
Dangerous position here for the Lions, as you get the feeling that if they can tack on a couple more runs, it might just put the game out of reach for the hosts.
This is on the outside for a ball 1-1. For Fiore, this will be his 4th appearance of the season. He has pitched 5 innings of relief, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. That one run that he allowed came on Sunday against Caldwell, and it came out of relief, and it came up as a weird way that he gave up the run. Is that one's a wild pitch, and thankfully for the Dolphins, that ball did not go into the dugout. That will allow both base runners to get into scoring position, but it kind of ties in, Aaron, to what happened on Sunday for Ryan Fiore. Fiore allowed a walk earlier in the inning, allowed the runner to get into scoring position off of a stolen base, got the second out of the inning in the 6th, balked the next play, so that allowed the runner to go from second to third. 2 pitches later, he threw a wild pitch to bring home the second run for Caldwell. They would tie the game in the 7th inning, so Fiore has had some command issues so far this past couple days. As he almost hits the batter once again. He did hit the batter. That will load the bases. And this inning could go really, really worse for CSI now. Alex Elliott will come up once again, I believe, with the bases loaded. 1 out. Dolphins will have to play at any base, and they really, really could use a double play ball right here.
Force at every base Ideal just to keep the ball in the infield and find something, even if it's just the force out at first.
There's your strike 0-1. I will say for our listeners at home, we could have another appearance potentially by Joe Foreman as this game goes along. That is not guaranteeing it just yet, but we could be joined on the broadcast by Joe Foreman in just a few moments. Joe, of course, has been in Florida calling the spring games with our broadcast partner, Joe Calabrese. Off day for them tomorrow. They're back in action on Thursday for a doubleheader as they finish up their spring games, I believe, on Friday. Dolphins dropping their pair earlier today. Meanwhile, the count now here goes 2-1 for Elliott.
This is an opportunity for the Dolphins to potentially learn from their previous mistakes. If you remember, in the third inning with a runner on third, a chopped ground ball went to shortstop. It was Flashner, and he charged it with the intent of going home when he could have also gone to first. And this is a spot where you just need to take the out wherever it comes.
And they won't be able to as Elliott gets a base hit through the left side. 1 run will score. Waterman's throw is cut off. A 2-run single for Elliott now makes this an 11-5 lead for Georgian Court.
And that's a dagger to the heart of Dolphins fans. A 4-run lead extended to 6 with more potentially in the cards at Georgian Court can, poke a few more hits here or potentially just benefit from another wild pitch. And obviously there's still 3 opportunities for the Dolphins, and we know that they have the potential of coming back late. We saw it in Game 2 of the doubleheader against Chestnut Hill, although they didn't get the win, but they did score 8 runs in the last 2 innings. But you just don't want to make that mountain to climb higher.
As I mentioned, we saw it also on Sunday against Caldwell. They were down 4-0 throughout the first couple of innings in that game, fought their way back to make it a 1-run contest. But now they trail this one by 6 and still only 1 out in the inning. Fiore is trying to at least keep this a 6-run game. Tamargo hits that one down the right field line, but foul.
It's weird, Nick. I really thought you were only allowed to score with 2 outs. So I don't know what happened.
Yeah, the way Georgia Court's been hitting this entire night, the mile for them has been 2-out rallies, but they have attacked early in this inning off of Santoriello and now Ryan Fiore. And now with an 11-run outburst here off of 10 hits, Dolphins have also committed 3 errors in this game. So it misses on the outside for ball 1. The count evens at 1. Dolphins still have 9 outs to play with, but as you mentioned, Aaron, with already a 6-run deficit, they cannot get this any further than it's already at. So it misses on the outside for ball 2.
And you have to consider as well, Nick, with 8 more outs to get, what arms do they have available to put out there coming off of a very busy weekend?
That is also true. And they still have a lot more games this upcoming weekend. Dolphins still have, I have to look at double-check the schedule once again, but they have a couple more games this weekend, including another one here on Friday. After today, the Dolphins will go, or I should say, they were supposed to go to Lincoln University tomorrow. Those 2 games were postponed, so maybe that is a little bit of a relief for CSI there. But after today, they're back here on Friday against Caldwell once again, and then they'll play Caldwell on Saturday on a doubleheader, and then they'll be at Holy Family on Sunday for a doubleheader.
Did he not get hit by that pitch? That's
he
unbelievable.
Did not. Count is full of 3-2.
Lincoln, by the way, a team that was formerly a conference opponent, no longer. They have left the East Coast Conference for the CACC. So now they share conference with Georgian Court.
That is indeed the case. 3-2 here from Fiore, and a huge strikeout recorded right there from the Dolphins as Fiore gets the second out of the inning.
And I don't know the reasoning for Lincoln switching conferences, but I'm sure it was disappointing news for the College of Staten Island to hear, because that was a team that they would enjoy beating up on a regular basis, a team that regularly finished below them in the conference standings.
Dolphins were supposed to play them, as I mentioned, on Wednesday, but those games were postponed.
Do you happen to know why they were postponed, Nick?
Wish I could tell you why exactly they were. That's over my head. I can't really tell you. I'm sure someone else could probably tell you.
I would hope that someone could tell me.
Yeah, I'm sure someone could tell you. I think if we get Joe Foreman on the call at some point in this game, he'll be able to tell us, as having a duck out of the way on that one is Garcia, and he's now in a 1-1 count. I'm trying to see maybe he was good for the next half inning.
Something that surprised me is that we haven't seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't seen number 9, Sammy Cruz, for Georgian Court.
Big swing and a miss as Garcia was out in front on that off-speed pitch, and the count goes to 1-2. Now, there is a pitcher warming up in the bullpen for Georgian Court. It's another left-handed reliever, so...
How many lefties do you think they got?
We'll see. We were informed it was rain, Aaron. There is rain in the forecast for tomorrow, so that's what I figured, but I just wanted to double-check. That one missed for ball 2, and Burrito went to first base on that throw, and both runners advanced with ease. So a double steal right there for Georgian Court now gives them second and third, still with 2 outs in the inning.
And perhaps that's one of the first moments where the inexperience of Burrito shows through.
I think he was expecting the runner from first base that was going on first base originally to go back. And it never happened.
It seemed as though he thought he could force that runner to be caught in a pickle.
Yeah, he was looking for the rundown, and there was no rundown whatsoever.
Yeah, the batter reacted really well, to be honest, to advance to second immediately upon the throw, and there was just no chance. He was already at the base by the time the first baseman had the ball in his glove.
So now a base hit right here could bring home 2 runs and extend this already 6-run lead for the Lions. And that's a big hit into left field. That one is trouble. That one is gone. No, maybe not, Aaron. I thought off the rip it was a home run.
Oh,
the lights in the field confused me, and the way Georgian Court was celebrating, I thought that was a home run. It's an RBI 2-run double regardless for Garcia, and it extends this lead now to 8. It's 13-5.
Well, I can't blame you, Nick. It really did look like that ball went over the wall. I think we lost it in front of that white advertisement.
Yeah, the way he celebrated and the way they celebrated, I thought that was clearly as day a home run.
But Georgian Court have well and truly broken the game open at this point. An 8-run difference and another 4 spot. The Lions have scored now in 3 straight innings. They've scored multiple runs, and it's just an offensive onslaught.
And I think our viewers could see it at my vantage point here behind the plate. A couple of players were going towards behind the plate, and they were starting to celebrate as a home run. You can even see it here, Aaron. It's one or 2 players going behind home as if maybe a home run had just happened, but that was not the case. It was a double off that left field wall.
It did seem like that ball was headed into the walkway behind the outfield.
Yeah, that's
wall.
The second time tonight I thought a ball was hit for a home run, and it just hit off the wall. I called myself the first time. That time I did not. So that one you can add to the highlight reel, folks. But Georgia Court is still happy of the result regardless of what the outcome was. They now extend their lead to 8. And think about what they've done as that one gets past Burrito into the backstop, and it'll be another wild pitch. But think about this for Georgian Court. They were down. They took the lead 4-1. They then lost the lead at 5-4, and they have now rallied for 9 unanswered runs in these last 3 innings.
It's remarkable consistency with the scoring, Nick. We're here in the 8th inning.
Not even the 8th. We're in the 7th inning still.
Oh.
I know.
My apologies. I've been trying to interpret the innings based off of the scoreboard we have in outfield, and the way that they're positioned is a little bit awkward.
Yeah, we still have a little bit of a ways to go. We're approaching the 3-hour mark in this game.
So out of the 7 innings, they've scored in 4 of the 7 innings, and each of those tallies.
They will get another run potentially, but a big play by Keogh out in right field will rob a base hit away from Morales, or Moreno, excuse me. I did it again, Aaron. I said Morales. Moreno is caught with no base hit right there. That will retire the side, but Georgia Court gets another 4 spot in this game as they attack for 4 here in the top of the 7th. We head to the home 7th. It's now 13-5 lead for the Lions.
College sports.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
A return to normal, and all we love about sports.
You've instilled resilience, focus, and selflessness in us. We've put those lessons to work.
We've found strength and unity in each other.
You continue to take us places we never imagined.
You bring out the best in us.
So when we look forward, we see the light at the end of the tunnel.
We see a better world for all of us and for college sports.
And we are back for the bottom of the 7th inning here at SIUH Community Park, and it's now a 13-5 lead for Georgia Court in this game, Aaron. An 8-run deficit from CSI, down to their last 9 outs in this game, and AJ Vigliani will lead it off here in the home 7th.
What can the Dolphins produce here, Nick? They need an explosion of offense to really feel like they have a chance at getting this win. Something like what happened in the 4th inning. I'm making extra sure I'm saying the correct inning number now.
Well, I wasn't Vigliotti, Aaron. That's J.J. Hunter. And he's got himself no extra base hit because what a play in left field for the first out of this inning.
Wow.
These last 2 innings, Aaron, have been very rough for me. Very, very rough. Vigliotti was the last out, I remember now, of the last half inning. But what a play out of left field to rob Hunter of an extra base hit.
I believe that is Moreno.
That is indeed the case.
And he's been having a game today.
Not Morales.
No,
not Morales.
Don't know who that guy is.
I don't know who that is either. I don't know who that guy is. I don't know who's been saying Morales the entire night. Dolphins had a pinch hitter as well here in this spot. So Waterman is out of the game.
That's number 35, John Harrington.
There's Harrington at the plate for the Dolphins here. Quickly down the count 0-1 after that foul ball. And now down the count 0-2.
Harrington, he's got 9 plate appearances on the season, batting .222. It's 2 hits, 2 RBI, 2 total bases. That's a lot of 2s.
Need a lot of 2s. How about the box score in this game as well, Aaron? 13 runs, 11 hits, 2 errors for Georgia Court. For CSI, 5 runs, 7 hits, 3 errors as Harrington is down swinging for the second out.
Just filling up that stat box.
Brady Park still on in relief for Georgian Court. Jack Heel will come up with 2 away.
The young Kehoe, can he provide the key to a comeback here for the Dolphins, desperately in need of something?
There's the first pitch strike 0-1. Dolphins now down to their final 7 outs in this game. Game that has gotten away from them in these last 3 innings. As I mentioned, had a 5-4 lead back going into the 5th. It's now been 9 unanswered runs for this Lions team. And they are 7 outs away from their first ever baseball win in their program's history as the count now goes to 0-2. or correction, 1-2.
That is the silver lining for those watching who support the Dolphins is you get to witness history.
Fortunately for the Dolphins, not good history, as Keogh is down swinging for the final out of the inning. So Parks retires the Dolphins 1-2-3 here in the home seventh. We head to the top of the eighth, 13-5 lead for Georgian Court.
Number 32, Kyle Hornsby. Inside the 30. Touchdown. Michaela Burgess.
An incredible finish by home. The NCAA and its member schools offer nearly 500,000 college athletes a path to go pro in something other than sports. Learn more at ncaa.org.
Top of the eighth brings a new pitcher to the inning for the CSI Dolphins. Anthony Fusco is now the new pitcher for CSI. He also comes into this game with a bunch of new substitutions for the Dolphins defense. Now, I'll have to get the substitutions in a moment for where each new player is. So Harrington pitched in the last inning. I believe there's a new catcher as well. So I'm being told there's a new catcher, first baseman, third baseman, left fielder, and center fielder.
That's 5.
So a lot of new realignment for the Dolphins in this inning. And for Fusco, this will be his first appearance of the season, the freshman from Monsignor Farrell. That one swung on a miss for strike one. And Aaron, me saying the words Monsignor Farrell really left a bad taste in my mouth. Apologies to anyone that attended Monsignor Farrell, but as a St. Peter's graduate, let's just say we've had we've had a long-standing rivalry with Monsignor Farrell throughout the past couple decades.
Bitter history.
Very bitter history. But countdown goes to 2-1. But Aaron, you had some interesting facts you wanted to bring up during this inning.
Yeah, I will. Before I do that, I can see that the new catcher, the only number that I really can see is number 12, Jake Giovanone.
We saw him replace Keogh on Saturday in Game 1.
But yeah, I think what I wanted to talk about is really the only thing that can give us some context as the first baseman, Dunmeyer, draws a walk. The only thing that can really give context for how good Georgian Court may or may not have been coming into this game is the opponent that they played, 3-game series against Erskine. And Erskine is a school in Due West, South Carolina. They play in the Conference Carolinas. You may or may not have heard of Conference Carolinas. I had not. They were 29-26 last season, the 2024 season. They were 8th in the Conference Carolinas out of 12 teams. And they did make it into the conference tournament, a very complicated conference tournament.
So Rodriguez sets that one to left field. That will drop in for a base hit. They give Georgian Court first and second, nobody out there. 12th hit of the night. And we also had a pinch runner enter the game. That was Matt Mason. That now goes to second base, replacing. I already lost my spot in the order, Aaron. But regardless, it's a base hit right there for Rodriguez. Now making it first and second with still nobody out of the inning. He replaces Dummeier in the lineup at first. So we'll see if he stays in the game at first base. Now, back to the top of the lineup, and that brings up Carter Rippon.
You really had me there. I was frozen waiting for you to
yeah,
your thought.
Like I said, it's been I will say it's been a rough night for me in terms of the numbers and stuff like that. And I obviously that play in left field where I thought was a home run for a few moments, but yeah, I was trying to remember where my spot was in the order. As that throw was low towards third base, both runners will advance on the stolen base, and now Georgian Court will have second and third, still nobody out.
Well, I will finish up my thoughts on Erskine. Not much more to say other than they made it into their conference tournament, a 12-team conference where 10 of the teams make it into the conference tournament. They were the 8th seed, and they made a run that included defeating the number 1 seed, North Greenville, who we've all heard of, I'm sure, 9-2. And then they lost to the eventual champions, UNC Pembroke. And then they went to the losers bracket of this conference tournament and lost to Mount Olive.
Very formidable opponent they faced this past weekend. The count goes to 3-1. I also have the defensive substitutions as well, Aaron, for CSI in this inning. So you mentioned Giovanone. He's now the new catcher. Christopher Riley is now the new center fielder. John Harrington, who pinched hit that last inning for Waterman, is out in left field. Vince Weigel is now playing at third base. And the new first baseman is Mike Cunningham.
And that is a walk.
That's a walk right there for Reben. And that will load the bases again for Georgian Court. A familiar sight that we've seen in this game. And a chance here for Frank Mara to really put potentially the dagger into this game.
Bases loaded, nobody out. It's really the nightmare scenario, especially for a team that's already down. Not really much else to say about it other than that. Got an arm warming up.
Now it misses high and inside for a ball 1-0. As I mentioned, Fusco making his first appearance of his collegiate career. Certainly not an easy spot to come into. Down already down at 8 runs. Still not been able to record the first out of the inning right here. That one fouled just a little bit too close for comfort to our right. And I tell you what, Aaron, I made the same joke on Sunday. If we had set up the pitcher-batter camera outside for tonight's game, that camera would have been in jeopardy with that last foul ball. So maybe a good thing we didn't have it set up once again. We had the conversation on if we should set it up tonight. We played it safe with the one camera. I think with that last foul ball, that probably was the best bet for that scenario. As the count now goes 2-1.
I'm liking what seems to be a slight change in approach for Fusco, which is take a little off the pitch, put it in the zone, and just force the batters to do something. I mean, what's the worst that could come of that in this scenario?
Dolphins do have another pitcher warming up in their bullpen. Georgia Court has a couple up in theirs. Fusco is now in danger of walking in a run. The count goes 3-1.
Just as I was talking about putting it in the zone.
No empty bases here with the bases loaded. Fusco in danger of walking in the 14th run for the Lions here tonight. A 3-1 count. And that is indeed the case. He walks in the 14th run of the game. A 14-5 lead now for Georgian Court as the bases remain loaded with still nobody out.
This is the sort of situation that leaves you tossing and turning at night as a pitcher. Bases loaded, nobody out, struggling to locate. It's exactly what you do not want, especially to start your career. Mentioned earlier how relief pitching is such a confidence position.
That one in there for a strike, 0-1. And unfortunately, Aaron, it's another game for the Dolphins this season that, they've had the lead for a little bit in this one, and it's just fully gone away from them. And it's gotten to this extent, unfortunately, as well here tonight. It happened the same point in Myrtle Beach at Southern Connecticut State, where they had a lead late in that game, and the game just unraveled for them and spiraled out of control, and they lost that game. And it's kind of happened here again tonight. A multitude of things, walks, a lot of hits allowed, 3 errors as well. And Georgia Court, to their credit, has just taken advantage of every single thing that the Dolphins have given to them in this performance.
It just speaks to the importance of good bullpen pitching, Nick. When you're behind in games and you're trying to pull yourself back into it, you need to be able to stay close. And the Dolphins pitching just has not been able to put zeros up on the scoreboard.
Count now goes to 1-2. And that's another great point as well. The Dolphins had to go with their bullpen in the 4th inning after Bonvini was able to go through 3. So the Dolphins already coming off of a week where they've had a doubleheader on Saturday, a doubleheader on Sunday. Had to go early to their bullpen here tonight. And they still have a couple more games this week as Fusco will get his first strikeout of the season right there for the first out of the inning. And as we mentioned, game on Friday, a doubleheader on Saturday, a doubleheader on Sunday. There's still a little bit more this week for CSI, and they're trying to preserve whatever else they have left in that bullpen here tonight and for the remainder of the weekend.
Yeah, I don't have an ear inside of the bullpen or inside of the dugout or anything like that, but if I had to bet, I'd say that had they had a better situation with health of arms, they probably would not have put Santoriello back out there for a second inning. I'm sure that they would have loved to go to somebody else just to not stretch Santoriello out so much, but I feel as though they just probably did not have many other options. And who knows, they have someone warming up here. Do they even have another arm to really offer after that?
Yeah, it could get into the spot where maybe you use a position player as a pitcher, especially in this and the deficit that you currently have. You never know. That could be the case. The Dolphins trying to get these last 5 outs pitching-wise in this game. This count now goes to 1-2.
It's also interesting to consider. I mean, it really isn't a problem for Georgian Court, but I think it is interesting, generally speaking, to point out the difference in roster size of these two teams. CSI's got 32 players. Georgian Court right now is rocking a roster of 47. So they've got a lot of players.
That's a big roster.
Yeah, I think that's a product of, first-year team just trying to put together as many players as possible to hopefully produce talent.
Right.
But, man, is that a lot of bodies.
The count now full here, 3-2. The Dolphins once again are in danger of walking in another run. It's Jack Greenspan at the plate. I'm confident that is him at the plate. I've had a rough night with numbers, and he works himself a walk and brings home another run. Georgia Court extends his lead to 15-5.
And no movement yet from the dugout, so he will stay in to face another batter.
And I want to go back also to what Georgia Court did against those 3 matches against Erskine, Aaron. In those games, they scored a combined 5 runs in the 3 games that they played. They have outbursted for a 15 spot here tonight, and they still have 1 out to go in this inning, and they still have 5 outs to play with in the duration of this game.
Well, yeah, if they had any doubts of their ability to score runs after their first 3 games, I think that those have been mostly quelled. This is a lineup that definitely can get runners across the plate.
And I'd have to check with stats as well. I feel like, I'm not saying everyone has gotten a base hit for Georgia Court in this game. It feels like mostly everyone in their lineup has gotten at least 1 hit. And they, if not have gotten at least 1 hit, they've at least been on base 1 time in this game.
Yeah, it's a real shame that the live stats are not going. That would provide a fair amount of insight for us. But when you have 12 hits, up there on the scoreboard, you have to imagine that almost every player has contributed to that tally.
I'm wondering how many walks has also been issued in this game as Tamargo hits that one into right. Keel will make the play out in right field. Both runners from second and third will tag to their respective bases. Sacrifice fly there for Tamargo. Now makes it a 16-5 lead.
And, despite the run scoring, it is good for Fusco to just get that second out. I think with all the context considered, the score before he even came in, the fact that it's his first ever appearance, just getting outs under his belt is important for building towards his next appearance, which I'm sure that he'll get in due time.
So I also want to point out to our listeners at home, after this next half inning, we're going to be joined by our broadcast partner, Joe Foreman. We might have to end the stream for just 30 seconds just to add Joe to our broadcast. If that is the case, we'll be offline for just 30 seconds, and they'll be back on the call with Joe Foreman for the duration of this game. So I mentioned he is down in Florida to cover the softball games for the spring games for the CSI softball team. So he's already called 2 games here today, Aaron. He's potentially in line to call, I guess you could call it 2.5 for the duration of today.
He's a hardworking man.
That is definitely true. He'll love to hear you say that. Count now 2-1 here.
I knew when he contacted me to broadcast this game, I was like, he's got to have something serious going on because he has not missed many games.
And I mentioned to you before our broadcast that, Wednesday with the Dolphins playing at Roberts Wesley, that could have been a potential home game for CSI too. And it would have been a tough trip for him, having to go from Florida back to Staten Island to call the game for us, and then have to go back out to Florida to call the remainder of softball as well. So, obviously, Foreman, was ready just in case that was indeed the case. He had the ticket booked and everything to take the red eye back to Newark to call that game on Wednesday. But the Dolphins, as I mentioned, will be at Roberts Wesley tomorrow night for that first round matchup as the count remains 2-2.
It's what we like to call commitment in the business.
Yeah, he's definitely committed. I can tell you that.
Oh man!
As I mentioned, he'll join us for the final inning and or I should say 2. Is it you counted 2 in an inning at third? Is that what it is? I guess. Dolphins batting for the final 2 innings and one more at bat for Georgian Court.
Inning and a half.
Inning and a half. Is that what it would be?
Yeah.
Okay. Count now full 3-2. The runner at first base, Greenspan, will go on this next pitch.
Got him.
And it is a strikeout. So Fusco is able to get the final out of this inning and strand 2 runners on base for Georgian Court. But Georgian Court does score 3 runs here in the top of the 8th. We now head to the home half of the 8th inning. 16-5 lead for Georgian Court. As I mentioned, folks, we might be offline for just 30 seconds as our broadcast partner, Joe Foreman, will join us for the duration of this contest. All right, we're back for the home eighth. As I mentioned, we had to go off the broadcast for just a few moments as we have been joined by our broadcast partner coming all the way from Florida. Welcome to the broadcast tonight, Joe Foreman.
All right, thank you, Nick, and thank you to Aaron for filling in my absence. I heard all the nice things you guys said about me, so now you have me on the air in a good mood.
So, Aaron, that means we can't say anything bad about him as this game goes along.
No,
Not while I'm here, you can't, no, because I'll give you the old "you're fired."
Exactly. I was going to say, that's the guy who hired me. I'm not saying a single negative thing.
It's true. That is true. Dolphins trail in this game now 16-5 here in the bottom half of the eighth inning. I believe we had a new pitcher as well for Georgian Court. It is Joe Voley in relief for the Lions. But, Joe, talk to us about your trip so far in Florida while you've been down there. I know you've been calling some of the softball games for CSI. How's it been so far?
It's been a lot of fun. It always is, which is why I pay the expense to come down here each year. Obviously, it makes my job easier as well, and it becomes even easier when the team is winning, and they won each of their first 3 games here at the spring games. That was nice. They lost their first game of the trip against Franklin Pierce yesterday and dropped a couple of tough ones today against Southwest Minnesota State, but it's been a lot of fun, and Joe's been a great help to me. The team seems to really be enjoying him as the van driver, so I've had the help from Joe on the broadcast, and the team seems to love him as a van driver.
Yeah, I have heard a couple stories from listening to you guys broadcast this week. I was able to at least tune into one of the games earlier today.
What did you hear exactly?
I heard about the sunscreen. You need to put some
Nick,
on. I saw your arm.
I'm as red as a tomato right now.
Yeah, I saw your arm in Calabrese's Instagram
Yep.
post, and I said, "Oh man, he needs
true.
some sunscreen really badly." Why go draw?
By the time the day was done, we were uniformly red from the top of the arm all the way down. By design, though. By design.
Oh, okay.
By design. Oh, yeah. Are you trying to peel and get a tan from that?
Well, I'm trying to get my first exposure to direct sunlight in a year, Aaron. I needed to go above and beyond while I have this week out in the sun.
That is fair. You were saying you were looking like a ghost somewhat. I think it was a couple weeks ago.
It was more than somewhat. I mean, on the inside of my arm, it still is that way. Now, the last time the three of us were together, I did get some sun then as well.
That's right.
I believe
I got
Nick,
more
you
than
got
sun.
more than you bargained for.
I got more than
a
sun
couple
of
of years
that.
back.
Let's not remind me about that. That was an interesting week.
The last time Nick, Aaron, and I were on a call together, it was for the New York State Little League Baseball Championship, won by South Shore Little League, a team that then went very deep into a run at Williamsport. So
that's true.
That was the last time the three of us were on the call together.
That's true. And I'm sure we're looking forward to calling those games once again this upcoming summer.
And you touched on it already, Nick. The Dolphins obviously are on the road tomorrow in men's basketball, playing a playoff game. And, of course, we had hoped that we'd have the chance to call some playoff basketball tomorrow night. It won't happen. That being said, I have a viewing party ready up here in my suite for that game tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to what I hope is going to be a Dolphins victory, and both teams traveling to Amherst for the games against their opponents in the semifinals.
Meanwhile, for the Dolphins here, Vincent Weigel and Jake Giovanone, drawing leadoff walks to start off this bottom of the eighth. But go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to comment on this pitcher, Joe Voley. He came into this game with 5 walks in 2 2/3 innings pitched. So this is a guy that struggles to find the strike zone.
Big swing for a strike.
At this point in the game, if you're the Lions, obviously leading by 11 runs, you get some of those arms in that are perhaps trying to get right. You often see that early in the season, especially in non-conference games as teams begin to gear up for conference competition, typically later in the month of March. So not too surprised to see him get some work here in this game. The Dolphins obviously hoping to capitalize and maybe make this a bit more interesting with 6 outs to play with.
It's certainly possible. I mean, I mentioned a little bit earlier in the game how on Saturday, the 1st of March, in that Game 2 of the doubleheader against Chestnut Hill, they produced 8 runs in the final 2 innings. Now, it was a failed comeback attempt. They still didn't quite get enough runs on the board. It was a 10-13 loss, but that's just to say that the Dolphins know how to score late in the game.
We had a nickname for them many years ago, coined by a good friend of ours, Dave Pizzuto, former sports information director. He always called them the Cardiac Kids.
Christopher Riley now the batter for the Dolphins. But I think the thing also, Joe, and I kind of touched upon it in this game. I think the problem for the Dolphins so far this season is they haven't had they've had the inability to catch these third outs in some innings. They've had a couple of issues with walking batters, and in this game here tonight, the 12 hits allowed also has been a problem. I talked to Aaron about it. Through the first 3 innings, they had only allowed the one lone hit, and then it kind of just skyrocketed as these next 5 or 6 innings went on for CSI.
Well, something we've talked about many times before is how heavily dependent the Dolphins have been on getting length from their starting pitcher. And the more outs that the Dolphins have needed from the bullpen, and how close did that foul ball come to you?
Very close.
Very close.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably about a second or two behind.
You're not too far behind.
Yeah, I'm very close. I was a bit further behind for the basketball game over the weekend. I actually dropped the resolution on this game, and I think it's brought me even closer to live. So we're still experimenting with me calling games remotely. I think my schedule oftentimes does demand that, especially with how much we have going on this week. But I don't think I would attempt it for basketball ever again unless it was dire. However, I think baseball and softball much more easily lend itself to that. So I think that's something I'm looking at in the future if necessary.
Yeah, and certainly something that, we've been looking forward to. Obviously you talked about it, you did it on Saturday for basketball for both senior days, and now we get to experiment it once again here tonight for the final inning and a third of this game.
Well, I can assure our audience that I was there for all of both games on senior day. Unfortunately, we had an audio glitch in the second half of the women's game, and that was lost. I found that out after the game had ended, and needless to say, that was a bit disappointing. Dolphins obviously picking up their 20th win of the season, a big milestone. But going back to the point I was making before, the Dolphins over the last couple of seasons have relied so heavily on getting good length from their starting pitching. And typically, if they needed more than 6 outs from the bullpen, their lead was in dire jeopardy. The late innings have just been brutal for this team over the last couple of years, and we've seen it. They can score with just about anybody. It just comes down to getting those final outs and playing clean defense in the field as well. We've seen some errors really hurt them, obviously, in that game that you mentioned earlier against Southern Connecticut State.
And as I mentioned also, the last 4 innings is where the damage has been done for Georgian Court, and that's why they have the lead. After CSI regained the lead in this one 5-4, Georgian Court has scored 12 unanswered runs, 3, 2, 4, and 3 in the last 4 innings, as a walk is issued to load the bases for CSI here at the bottom of the 8th to give TJ Leno a bases-loaded 1-out opportunity.
Well, Leno's certainly a power threat. We've seen that already this year, a couple of home runs, and the Dolphins obviously don't need that here. In fact, would you argue it's a rally killer?
I would think so, yeah. I think you want to just keep the bases loaded, or at least have 2 runners on. Considering you're down 11 runs, you just need any type of spark to get you back into this game, because you're still only playing with 5 outs to go for the remainder of this one.
It sort of harkens back to a conversation we had at a much different state of the game, you and I, Nick, about just sticking to your approach and just taking every at-bat as it comes. Don't worry about the context of the game, and just work that count and try and put the ball in play. The rest hopefully will come.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Leno was to hit a home run, I need to make sure it is a home run, folks, because I've already had one.
Nick,
I've had one mishap.
I'm not going to get on you for that one because I already referenced it, the game that we last called together, the 3 of us. I actually made a mistake on a home run call in that game, and it was a bit different. What happened is that on the previous play, they threw behind the runner at third, and the runner then stole home. So effectively, a runner was taken off the base paths 1 pitch before a home run. And I called it, I believe, a 2-run homer. It was actually a solo home run.
Right.
And if you go back and watch it, you will see a skip in the audio and the video. I went back in post-production and fixed it. So you don't know it happened.
Yeah.
But it did indeed happen if you watched it live.
I remember you telling me about that, Joe, and I was going to tell you, Nick, maybe you could get an edit in post and we could just skip that part out.
No, you know what? I'm willing to take the bullet for that one because it definitely was deserved. And the only defense I had was that the way Georgia Core was celebrating, because they had a couple players, maybe 1 or 2 players, celebrate behind home plate. I'm thinking, oh, that's why they thought it was a home run. and I didn't see it come off the wall. The light in left field prevented me from seeing where it went. As Leno works the walk, and the Dolphins get their 6th run of the game.
So how close do the Dolphins have to get for us to move into, this is getting interesting territory? You think maybe 5-6 runs more in this
I was
inning?
going to say, if they can make this a 6-run game,
Yeah.
then maybe you maybe have some hope that there's still some life left in this one for you. But all Georgian Core needs is a double play, and they're right out of this inning.
I think they need to get to 12. You have the bases loaded, 1 out. I would say to make this really interesting, entering the last inning, they need to get to 12.
I would potentially even hesitate to go there until CSI can, get through an inning on defense, because they just have not been able to shut out the Georgian Core for even a frame since, the fourth inning?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to need you two to pass a message to the room next door.
Okay.
Can you do that for me?
We can do that, yeah.
I'll have to mute the mic, but yeah.
So what I want you to do, and I want you to say it in a semi-sarcastic way with a cheeky smile. When we announce any player who is wearing 0 to the plate,
just say
I don't want to hear
0.
I don't want to hear number 0 anymore.
We've been told next door, no number 0, just 0. I hope they heard me. I hope they heard me.
Yeah,
Steph, I can tell you.
I call it the live chat. It's our group chat was on fire with number 0. But you didn't say that very sarcastically, Nick. You need to open the door with a half grin.
Well, I'm still in the room. I was just kind of like saying it across where the little
where the opening is.
Yeah, where the little opening is next to us.
Yeah, I just wanted to have some fun with the room next door.
Listen, that's why when the error happened in foul territory, I looked over towards Lou immediately, and I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. He's got to make this an error.
We had one here yesterday as well. I think it was an E3 DF.
And I think the only conversation we had was, did that go to the catcher or the first baseman in that play? And I go, you could make the case for either one. I think you just give it to the first baseman because it's more towards him. As there is a strike 3 on the swing, but the Dolphins do get the run.
Oh, my goodness.
An RBI strike.
Outside, wasn't it?
Cunningham did not run to first base either.
It was very far outside, indeed.
I don't think you can run to first base.
I was going to ask, can he?
2 outs, right?
Yeah, that's the second out right there. I was going to ask you, can you run to second base on that play? Okay.
Less than 2 outs, base occupied, you cannot run.
Okay. So Cunningham down swinging, but the Dolphins do get the 7th run of the game for them. Now it's a 16-7 game. And Barnick up to the plate. And there's another wild pitch, and that'll bring him another run. It's now 16-8.
Well, if you're the Dolphins now, you look at that run on third base, and you think, well, if we get this one, maybe we can make this interesting in the ninth.
I have
the bases.
I have to look at the stat sheet, Joe, after this game to see how many runs were scored on wild pitches, because there has been a bunch in this game.
Don't do that to me.
There has been a lot scored on wild pitches in this game.
Just for
we had at times some sloppiness in the games that I've covered down here. We had a game, I believe, where there were 6 errors between the two teams, and it's early in the season. You're going to see some of that.
Go ahead, Aaron. What were you about to say?
I was just going to, for posterity, I was going to read out Chris Bartnick's numbers. Maybe he wouldn't want me to because he's 0 for 7.
No better time to get a first hit right here.
Oh, now you feel, Aaron.
Well, if I was 0 for 7, I might say, hey, just skip over reading my stats on the broadcast.
It wasn't Bartnick, actually, but unfortunately for Mike Cunningham, who I believe did come to bat just a batter or two ago, he is unfortunately going to be credited with another strikeout from a game earlier in the season. I actually thought I made a mistake on the stats. I received an email today from our team telling me that A.J. Vigliotti had been assessed an extra strikeout in the games in Myrtle. That's all you call the ball in play.
As that one was hit the center field for Barton to retire the side. But go ahead, Joe. Finish your point before we head to the top ninth.
So very quickly, I was told Vigliotti was given an extra strikeout, and he indeed was. I checked the game film. I was not the one who scored that game, but it should have been Mike Cunningham given the strikeout. It went to Vigliotti. So Vigliotti's numbers get a bit better after today.
Okay, at least it wasn't your fault. That's all that matters at the end of the day,
That's
Joe.
right.
We'll talk to Joe a little bit more when we head to the top of the night. Georgia Court's lead is now 8. It's 16-8 Lions. That one hit into left field, long run in left field, and it will be caught. That one caught out in left field, I believe, by Harrington, who entered the game for Waterman earlier on. As Sal Moniz comes on in relief for the Dolphins and records the first out of the ninth.
New pitcher on the mound for the Dolphins this inning, Anthony Salmonese. With 2 innings pitched on the season, he's got a 4.5 ERA, 3 hits, 1 run. It was earned, a walk and a strikeout. Those stats just improved marginally with that out he just earned.
And I saw him this past Sunday against Caldwell, that one outing that you mentioned, Aaron, against the Cougars.
And Nick, you know that I'm something of a meteorologist. What is the weather looking like up there? How windy? Because we had a lot of wind where we were playing today.
Honestly, the flag is not really moving at all. It's actually not a bad night here. It's way better than what we had on Sunday.
I heard it was pretty cold.
Sunday was pretty bad, Joe. It was one of those days where if you hit a ball into right field, you were going to have an extra base hit regardless. And if I mentioned this for Vigliotti's bat earlier in this game, he was a couple inches shy of a home run. If he had the same wind as the batter has hit with one away in the inning, if he had the same wind that he had on Sunday, that's an easy home run for him the opposite way.
Yeah, and he's a hitter that has power to all fields. And, you know, if you're giving him any extra help with the weather conditions, good luck.
I just would like to point out that batter who just got hit by a pitch, unless I'm reading something incorrectly.
It was J.R. Osman. That was the one that was hit by the pitch.
Yes, that's right.
It's now Larry Rodriguez once again getting the at-bat. Confirmly say he is still in the game. I mentioned earlier I thought he was out of the game. That was another rough one for me.
You got to get the knocks, Nick, and you know where they are?
I don't know. Honestly, I
know where they are.
I know you know where they are.
They're on the passenger seat of my car. Do you know why?
Oh, why are they on the passenger seat of your car?
When I was staking out Great Adventure, waiting for the King to Ka employees, and I had the binoculars in my passenger
and you missed
seat.
it. And you missed it anyway.
You went to watch.
I did.
You went to watch that,
and he didn't get to see it though. He was
what?
He missed the entire thing.
Had I
there might be a
not
6-4-3
been in Florida,
double
I
play.
would have been there.
And the Dolphins will turn the 6-4-3 double play to retire the side. So we'll just stay on the call for us going into this last break. But go ahead, Joe. Talk about this situation with you going to see King to Ka.
Well, we'll keep it brief, but I've alluded to it several times on basketball broadcasts. I am a lifetime coaster fanatic with a deep attachment to Six Flags Great Adventure and King to Ka. it was not announced that the ride was closing, but closing day was during our Tournament of Heroes. So unfortunately, I could not go. I went the Thursday before it closed, along with our colleague Joe Calabrese, got my last rides in unannounced. They closed the ride, and within about 3 months, it was imploded, and the 456-foot tower was taken down on February 28th. Videos of it all over the internet. The rumor was it was coming down on the 14th. I was there on the 14th. Didn't happen. And, of course, they took it down while I was in Florida.
Yep.
It's terrible luck.
Yeah, just a bit. But
Yeah,
I kind of knew before I left that it was coming, and I was mentally prepared for it. I was joking with some of our crew. I said, I haven't shed a tear since I was 10 years old, but if I have to watch this thing come down in person, I may shed a tear.
Now, have you and Calabrese considered going to anything tomorrow while you guys have a day off from softball?
Well, Joe is hanging out with some family tonight.
Oh, okay.
And he's taking a university tour tomorrow. He just recently enrolled in an online university. He was given a laptop, a camera, a tripod to help with some of the course load and some of the projects that he'll be working on. But he is taking his tour tomorrow, so I'm not sure exactly how early he's going to be able to get out. That being said, maybe we grab dinner, but I am catching that Dolphins-Red Hawks game tomorrow night. I need to be back in front of the TV by 7 o'clock.
Must-see television on the ECC network tomorrow night between the Dolphins and the Red Hawks.
Is it really must-see if we're not calling the game?
Well, that is true, and we obviously would love to be on the call, but for our Dolphins show, it's definitely must-see to see if they get to the second round. As I mentioned earlier on, face a very daunting task taking on that Damon team in the semifinal.
Yeah, that would be a very tough matchup for the Dolphins if they're able to get past the Red Hawks. Those two teams obviously met twice in the regular season. The Red Hawks knocked off the Dolphins in the first meeting, and the Dolphins won in convincing fashion at the Tank in the second meeting. So there's really no knowing what to expect. As Aaron mentioned, during conference tournaments, you never really know, but these two teams appear to be pretty evenly matched going in, and obviously a disappointing end to the regular season for the Dolphins and a chance now to bounce back in the postseason tomorrow.
That game tomorrow tipping off at 7 Eastern on the ECC network. As we have a new pitcher here for Georgian Court here in the top of the ninth. Andrew Sloan will try to record the final 3 outs of this game and give Georgian Court their first ever baseball victory, Joe. Did you know going into this game that this was their first year playing baseball? Because I didn't know. I didn't initially know off the bat.
Well, if I were to say no, would that make me look bad?
So I'm putting you in a bad spot is what you're saying with this question.
Well, no, I could just lie about it.
Oh, okay.
But I won't do that. I did not know.
Okay.
I was really taken aback when I found that in my research. And I kept thinking I have to look at the history of the matchups between these two teams. But no, I didn't.
And I couldn't find their stats from last season. I said, something's up because I can't find the 2024 stats for this team. And it made more sense as Aaron told me before our broadcast started. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense why I couldn't find any stats except for the ones from this season.
To be fair, had I been calling the game and pulled up the stats, I might have figured it out, though I guess this early in the year, maybe I would have gone back, but they do have 3 games in the book, so I don't know. When my attention is divided between a lot of different things on game day, between the stats, PA, and the game, sometimes we just pull up the current season stats, the roster, and call the game.
John Harrington flew out to right field for the first out of the ninth. Dolphins down to their final 2 outs. Johnny Bowman went out bad here with 1 away.
Now, the construction of their roster is, somewhat aligned with what you might expect for a team that just formed, but it's not exactly all freshmen.
Bowman hits this one out to right field, but once again will be playable out in right field, and the Dolphins now are down to their final out.
On their roster, they've got 20 freshmen, they've got 9 sophomores, 13 juniors, 2 seniors, a 5th year, and 2 grad students, for a total, like I said earlier, of 47.
It's why go be the Dolphins' last chance here.
I think a lot of the time when you're forming a new program like this, there's obviously that period before you officially launch where you're able to recruit and gather that talent. It seems like they put that time to good use with how large their roster is. And the way a lot of teams score baseball games is through the D3 Presto software, no relation to Division 3. And that software only allows 40 players. So I actually got an email letting me know that they had trimmed their roster down to 40 in case we use Presto. We do not. We're still stuck in the Stone Age using Stat Crew. But, that's the system I'm familiar with. It's very straightforward, very simple. And until NCAA comes out with a new system, I don't see any reason to change it.
I actually had a problem with 40-man rosters in Stat Crew earlier this season where,
really?
Yes, we were playing Stevens, and apparently they have more than 40 members, and their leadoff hitter, as I was trying to enter the starting lineup, was a freshman, number 53, in like the bottom of the roster, and I had to change Stevens' roster to add him in because he was beyond the player limit that Stat Crew was providing.
Meanwhile, right there, Georgia Court thought that they had strike three to end the game and missed inside for ball three. The count is now full.
Well, if there's one thing I know about Stevens, it's that they have a really good PA announcer. If there's one thing I know about the Ducks, they have a top-notch PA guy.
And Weigel will keep this game going as he works the 2-out walk, so Dolphins still have some life here in the ninth. But if you want to listen to Joe for the remainder of this week, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to tune into the CSI Sportsnet's YouTube page, as Joe is back on the call on Thursday morning for CSI softball spring games. Those games will conclude on Friday evening. So Joe still has 4 more games this week before he heads back to Staten Island to be back on the call with me next Tuesday, where the Dolphins take on Dominican University here at SIUH Community Park for baseball once again.
Nick, the question is, are we going to meet before that at MSG for WWE Raw?
We could. We could definitely talk about it, as the Dolphins will ground out to short. The flip to second is in time for the final out, and that will conclude tonight's contest as Georgian Court makes history here, folks. They win their first ever collegiate baseball game, winning this game over the Dolphins 16-8, and improving now their record to 1-3 on the season, and the Dolphins now drop to a record of 2-8.
Forgive the wordplay, but it seems as though the Dolphins have been proven guilty in the Georgian Court.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Nick Durst would really appreciate that one, but I'm not Nick Durst.
He said it, Joe, and I just said, yep, that's all. I just did it. Joe was just like, okay, you go with it.
I should have just hung up the call, so you could have gotten the beeps from me hanging up in the stream. That would have sent quite the message.
Final line scores from this game: Georgia Court 16 runs on 12 hits and 2 errors. The Dolphins finished it with 8 runs, 7 hits, and 3 errors in this game. And Aaron, for you for start, the Dolphins obviously got out to an early deficit in this one. They took the lead first, trailed 4-1 heading in to the next 4th inning. They were then able to get 4 runs, all of them coming via 2 outs, took the lead, but then as we saw, Georgia Court was able to explode for the next 4 innings, take the lead, and win this game 16-8. Your final thoughts on this game before we wrap this one up?
It was really 2 different games, Nick. Halfway through the game, it felt like it had a lot of intrigue, exchanges of leads, both teams scoring runs. It really felt like it could go either way. And then slowly but surely, the Lions just sucked all the air out of it. And by the end, it was kind of a laugher. So it just felt like a story told in 2 parts.
Now, Joe, for you, obviously you got to catch the entirety of this game in Florida and call the last couple of innings for us here. The Dolphins now dropping to a record of 2-8 on the season, and now they have a day off after the games were postponed tomorrow. They'll be back here on Friday against Caldwell. What's this team's mindset now with a 2-8 record going into these next couple games as they try to ride this ship the rest of the season with now a 2-8 mark and still in search of their first Division II postseason berth?
Well, I'll tell you, Nick, when I looked at this team's schedule coming out of Myrtle Beach, obviously they had some time off between the end of the Myrtle Beach trip and then their weekend games at Chestnut Hill. That being said, beginning on Saturday, they were about to embark on what I would consider to be just a brutal 8-day stretch. They were going to play a lot of games. I think I counted it up, and over 8 days, they were playing something like 10 or 11 games. That is a lot of baseball, and I think you can look at it 2 ways. Obviously, the doubleheader tomorrow has been postponed. No word yet on a potential rescheduling of that game, but Aaron mentioned it earlier. Lincoln is a team the Dolphins have dealt with pretty well in the past. I talk about it all the time, but that one game that had the score overturned due to weather 2 years ago arguably cost the Dolphins a shot at the postseason. But you look at it from one side and say, well, the Dolphins really could use a doubleheader against the Lions right now, given their past success. Or you could look at it as this team really needs to take some time to regroup and get right before once again taking on Caldwell later this week, and then Holy Family to close out the weekend. Because you look at it any way you want. Giving up 16 runs in a game is not a good starting point in terms of climbing out of a hole. That being said, early in the season, conference play still about 2 weeks away. In fact, I think it's closing in on exactly 2 weeks away. And I think that's the point in the season where you need to be right and you have to have things figured out. There's still time. There's no reason to panic, but there is some cause for concern.
Yeah, I believe that they start conference play when they return to the baseball complex against Malloy.
It's March 21st.
March 21st, yeah. So it is just under 3 weeks away from that game against the Lions that Friday afternoon against Malloy University.
Well, I have to say before we sign off that Marquise loved Aaron's call. So Marquise appreciates that, Aaron, proven guilty in the Georgian court.
Yeah.
As the Dolphins play-by-play broadcaster, I don't know if I would have went there. But.
Well, I can tell you, Joe, the Georgia court did give Arlen Freeman, the manager, a Gatorade shower in right field as you were making your point. So they do give him a nice Gatorade shower. As I mentioned, they win their first collegiate baseball game in their program's history tonight with their victory over the Dolphins, a 16-8 final win for the Lions. They now go to 1-3. The Dolphins dropping to 2-8. For us here in CSI Sports, the next time you will hear me on the broadcast will be this upcoming Friday back here at SIUH Community Park when the Dolphins take on Caldwell University. First pitch for that game at 5:30. As for Joe Foreman, he's still in Florida. He'll be back on the call on Thursday, 9 a.m. The Dolphins taking on Bemidji State University. That game will be on CSI Sportsnet's YouTube page. The second game against Salem University will be at 2 p.m. that Thursday as well. The spring games conclude on Friday for CSI for the softball team. And then as for the men's basketball team, tomorrow night on the ECC Network, CSI heads to Roberts Wesleyan to take on the Red Hawks in a first-round matchup, the winner moving on to take on Damon University in the semifinals of the ECC playoffs. But for all of us here on CSI Sportsnet, that is going to do it for tonight's coverage between the Lions and the Dolphins. Once again, the final score, Georgia Court wins this game 16-8, getting their first collegiate baseball win. For Nicholas Pavona, for Aaron Cohen, for Joe Foreman, and for all of us here on CSI Sportsnet, thank you for tuning in to tonight's coverage. We'll see you back here on Friday when the Dolphins take on the Cougars.